Chair, can you hear me there?
I can hear you the best.
Thanks very much. Apologies from Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
Okay. Victor?
No apologies from the Ulster Unionist Group.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Chairman. No apologies from the Democratic Unionist Party grouping. Thank you.
Councillor Garrity?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies from ourselves either. Okay, thanks.
Can you?
Hello, Chairman.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can't actually.
I can't hear anybody.
Wait, can you hear me at all?
I can't hear anybody. No.
No. Can we get IT? Yeah, we'll get IT on to you in a wee second here, okay? Is there any have we any apologies from any independents? Okay, well, we'll take that as not any declarations of interest.
I'm afraid of my reception. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Hold on now. There's someone on to you. Did you give him a ring maybe? Bert.
Well, there's no
sound.
Or can't hear anybody.
Okay. Right, we'll get IT on to you now, Bert. Although if you can't hear me, there's an awful lot of point in me saying that. Right, item 3, matters arising from the previous council meeting on the 2nd of June.
I can hear you now, Chairman.
Oh, very good, Bart. Very good. Can you just do me a favour and unmute there we go. There we go. Okay. So as I said, item 3, matters arising from the council meeting on the 2nd of June 2020. We're going to pick up where we left off, which is page 10. And we'll take it page by page. So if we do page 11, 12, 13.
12, Chair.
Yep.
Chair, just to highlight for members, we have a number of items of correspondence. The first from the Minister of Health. This is following on from the Council's further correspondence on the allocation from the £76 million support package for domestic abuse charities. So the letter dated the 12th of June has been appended, Chair, for members' consideration. And then on the second matter, we have a response from the Minister of Justice in relation to the arrangements for court hearings, and this again followed the members' concerns regarding parental alienation.
Okay. We've got indications from Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. It's in relation to the letter from the Department of Health. The point I was trying to make initially is actually exemplified in this document, that £750 million has been allocated by the UK government. The consequential Barnett is 22 million. However, in England, of that 750 million, more than 10%, 76 million, has been ring-fenced for support for domestic violence and sexual abuse groups. And the real point really was that of the 22 million, that is the Barnett consequential, there is no ring fencing. Instead, what we see there is that 15.5 million has been given as a general for all charities, which is open to all charities and is therefore unlikely to result in any ring-fenced quantity going to sexual abuse and domestic violence. So really, I'd like to propose, if possible, that we revert once again to the Minister and request, maybe it isn't the Department of Health, it's maybe the Minister for Finance, that we request that this money be ring-fenced, that there be at least 10% ring-fenced of this 22 million in support of sexual abuse and domestic violence support organisations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second that proposal if possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We any more indications? No. Is there anyone who wishes to record any kind of dissent from that proposal? Nope. Okay, I'd say that's carried all right then. And Seamus, you've just got your hands still up. Are you still looking in, or? Yeah, there we go. There we go. So I think we'll move on now. So page 12, page 13.
Yes, Chair, on page 13, again, we've two letters. The first item, Chair, is letter dated the 9th of July from the Minister of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. And this relates to the, I suppose, two aspects to the Council's previous correspondence regarding the need to make appropriate financial provision for the farming sector, and in particular for the small farm, and then the wider financial supports at this time for the sector. So that's the Minister's response to that letter. And then the second item, Chair, we have is from DFE relating to the support, financial support for childminders and childcare facilities.
Okay, I have two indications at the minute. One, first one's Councillor Emma McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in relation to the Minister's response, I was just a bit disappointed that the response noted has, on page 2, it's noted that the funding is going to be available for sort of irrespective of business size and location. And I suppose the concern that we would have in this small and rural area would be that the smaller and rural farms would be the ones that would suffer and would miss out on this. So I think it's important that we do argue the point that, or argue the case that the small farmers and rural farms are actually included when it comes to divvying out the funding for the different from the 21 million of the 25 million. And the second point then is just in relation to the DEL or the DFE minister's letter. There's a note there that as we know, there are rates reliefs for businesses included, and I'm wondering, are there any plans or any mention of any relief in terms of rates for domestic premises?
Okay, and there's a couple of questions there, but we'll go to Councillor O'Coffey.
Chair, it's in relation to the second paper, which is on the childminders. I just like to make a proposal. There's nothing really in the letter from the Minister in regard to Minister Dodds in terms of what support has been provided for childminders. A lot of registered childminders in particular have lost out from considerable because of the nature of their employment, but they're still being disadvantaged. There is no specific provision for support in terms of even a minimum. I do know registered childminders are seeking a commitment to if there's a shortfall in the numbers that they can take in, that there would be a provision to provide a proportionate amount of income corresponding to that. And secondly, there's a major issue around current restrictions on how many different families they can take children from, which means that they have to limit their numbers quite considerably. So if possible, I would like to follow that up by another letter back to them in regard to those two specific areas. I would like to ask on behalf of I would like the council to ask, can we raise, firstly, specific financial support for childminders who have lost an income, and secondly, specific commitment that that extends to include the impact of restrictions on the number of households that they can accommodate children from. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I am conscious that there's sort of two items being discussed at the same time here. So if you're looking to speak on the farming one, say, and I'll swing back to you. And if you're looking to speak on the childminder one, say.
Chair,
so, Councillor,
yes,
1 second.
The farming one, yes.
Oh, well, I'm going to come back to you then, okay, Councillor Wilson? Okay, so we'll try and deal with them one at a time. Seamus, farming one, grand. Councillor Swift.
Yes, Gormaga clear. Look, it is on the farming one, and just to pick up on the point then where the dear Minister has come back to provide us with assurance that he is intent on administering the funding fairly and equitably right across the Section 75 obligations in terms of the equality and human rights screening exercise, that it is going to be completed as part of the policy. We had a detailed debate at our last agriculture liaison group meeting on these very issues, but we really do need to be doubly assured that the rural farmer, and Emmett has made the point when we talk about small rural farmers, will most definitely be administered with fairly and equitably. So to that end, I think we definitely need to propose to write a letter back to the dear Minister on that particular point, just to give us the definite assurance that our small rural farmer in this district council area is most definitely going to be treated fairly and equitably. So I propose that just point be further clarified. As
I did say, try and keep them sort of half separate. So I have an indication here from Councillor Curry that she wishes to speak on the childminder one. So I'm going to bring you in. And I've also got an indication from John. Are you farming or? Oh, it's all right. Councillor Curry.
Yes, Good Chair. I think I thought you were dealing with this issue first, but just on the childcare then, and I'm particularly referencing the next letter on the agenda, and I think we had written to the various departments, but the economy minister has stated that they want to return childcare to pre-COVID levels. I think that's rather vague. Is that the same amount of childcarers or the same amount of childcare places? The two are now two very different things. Pre-COVID level is not enough. It doesn't go far enough. We need affordable and accessible childcare. And that's a particular issue in rural areas. And I think that's why we had approached the different departments. We've seen the pandemic highlighting the childcare issues, especially with school closures and the childcare provision. And that really needs to be addressed. It was a problem before COVID. Affordable and accessible childcare is not something that's been created by COVID. It was an issue beforehand, and as I've said repeatedly, it is the biggest barrier to women entering the workplace and to working families. So it's a bigger issue now with COVID, and it's going to get worse if we have a second phase. Or indeed experience a pandemic like this again. So we need to tackle that issue. So I'm happy to second Courier O'Coffey's proposal there, but maybe to ask that we don't just actually go back to and I think Courier O'Coffey was saying that we go back to the dairy minister. I think we need to go back to the entire executive. This is an entire executive issue. I think at this stage it's certainly cross-departmental. So if Courier O'Coffey would amend just to deal with it on that basis, I'd be happy to support it. Gormugget.
Well, I don't want to let you in again, but please don't.
I'm entirely happy. I was actually looking at the Department of Economy because I think they have responsibility overall for funding, but I entirely agree with Councillor Curry, so I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Okay, proposed and seconded. The only one who hasn't indicated if they're going for farming or childcare is Councillor Thompson.
Chairman, just an issue of clarification. Just with regard to the chat function, see some councillors continue to use this chat function. Is that the way forward, or not?
I'm not looking for it at the minute, and there will be times when I may ask, for example, if no proposers are forthcoming, I may ask, indicate in the chat function. But unless I actually ask for it, I'm not really going to be. I can't split myself too many ways. So unless I'm asking for a proposer in a second,
well, I suggest, Chairman, that we use the hand function. Thank you.
It's a lot slower, but hopefully it won't come down to that. So look, I have a proposed and seconded proposal on childcare, and I'm going to ask here if anyone has any objections as such. If they do, please indicate now, verbally. Nope. Okay, we'll take that as passed. Okay, now everyone who was looking in on farming, now's your chance. So first name I have is Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to this 25 million scheme, I agree with Councillor Swift in our in the proposal to write back. I have to say that this is something that I have thought long and hard about actually bringing up. But at this stage, I am going to bring it up. I am extremely disappointed in the way that this has been allocated. There was an Assembly motion passed that this would be distributed fairly, but it clearly hasn't. And it's the big beef and milk farmers who are going to get the vast majority of this money. And this is the bit I'm reluctant to say, but I am going to say it. The vast majority of the big farmer who is in inlands and lowlands are from the Unionist Protestant tradition, and the vast majority of the hill farmers are from a nationalist Catholic community. And this is the second time that 70% of the hill farmers are from the Catholic community. And the ANC was cut off by a DUP minister a couple of years ago, and it affected 70%, and Section 75 didn't come in and save us then. And now, again, this here is another completely biased, in my opinion, attack on the hill farmers. They're not going to get virtually anything from this. And I think it's absolutely disgraceful. And it needs to be put out there. And if I'm wrong that is the motivation on it, I apologise if that's the way, but that's the way it's coming across, and that's the way I am getting it day and daily from farmers from the hill lands are saying that to me. Is it because of the demographic they come from?
Well, just stay on the line there a second. I suppose that is quite a serious thing to say, and I'm going to have to sort of clarify if you want that explicitly referenced in the letter.
I would certainly reference it in the letter if Councillor Swift is agreeable.
Councillor Swift?
Yeah, agree.
Okay. Next name I have is Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair. I'm really, well, I am a Protestant farmer. I am a Protestant and I'm entitled to be one. And Councillor Green talked about the size of the farms. How does he donate what size a farm is? I drove a school bus. He says himself he drove a school bus. I drove a school bus part-time for 18 years and I had 19 acres land at that time. If I spent my money different and got a bit higher, that was my business. It wasn't for anybody to sit in the council chamber and say, because I'm a Protestant, I'm better off than him. But as far as the minister's, dear minister's concerned, the money is to be allocated on a fair basis. And if I happen to milk a few cows and get a few shillings, that's my prerogative. He had the same prerogative. Why did he not do it? There's no point in him sitting in the council chamber now derogating farmers that maybe did wait and do something, whereas he obviously didn't. So that's really, I'm really annoyed.
That's an absolute scandalous thing.
Hold on.
No. I didn't single out anybody. I said in general.
No. This is going over the top of each other. Seamus, I'll bring you in a second here, but I'm going to let Bert finish his point. I think I've let you say some pretty. No, Bert, stop. Bert, 1 wee second. Bert.
He donate Protestant Unionist farmers.
Bert, I've muted you, okay, and I'm not having this descend into some sort of fight session, okay? I have let two councillors say two things that are quite provocative. You can vote as you wish.
I'm only answering what
I know, but you have.
I had no intention of coming in, whether it was a Protestant farmer or a Catholic farmer, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to it being fired at me because that's not true.
Right, you can vote as you wish.
It's 100% true.
Councillor Green.
I didn't attack any farmer individually, and I'll give Bert over my farm if he can come up here and turn it into a milk farm up on the top of the mountain. So I'll take that there as complete and utter nonsense. What are you talking about?
A lot of the young Unionist farmers were more there than.
Right, I can't be having this. Okay. So Bert, you've been in once, and that's that's unfortunately all I can give you. Next up on my list is Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. No, we are a farming community. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. We are producing food, and I think it's very sad that those comments had to come at this stage. But I will refer back to the letter. I am disappointed. I'm very disappointed with the minister. It seems a solo run again. I support that the beef, dairy, sheep, some of the sheep industry will be supported in the horticulture, but suckler cow farmers and sheep farmers that had no animals for sale have been left out in this allocation of money. It's supposedly a Stormont collective, but this has not been the case. I don't know what has happened, but it is not very fair for the people in our community here in Fermanagh and Omagh, and I would like to reiterate again in that letter, if Councillor Swift would accept that primary producers, suckler cow farmers and sheep farmers here have been, discriminated against, and I'm not going to stand for it here. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Feely, you're up next.
Thank you, Keirley. Can you hear me all right there, Chris?
I hear you the best.
I'm not going to go into a big discussion right about it either, but I'm bitterly disappointed as well. And we discussed this a bit an hour at the agricultural liaison group. We said Seamus and Bernice St. John was there as well. But I say I'm not going to write, but I'm coming in here because Seamus couldn't get back. I'm back in Seamus and what Seamus has said. I think that is the truth. We're not hitting at Councillor Wilson at all here. I think that is the truth, and I'm glad that has been mentioned there in this letter, because as the ANC was totally all the hill farms that money was cut, and as regards to milk cows here, I came late into the meeting here this evening. I'm only getting my first cut meal and done yet. I said them boys up that country's getting the second and third cut, and it's a pure struggle and bad land here. So I just think it's pure discrimination when we left out, and I'd just like to be associated with Councillor Green's comments there earlier on. And thank you.
Okay. Councillor McCaffrey.
Yeah, Gurma with Caherlane. I just want to come in there and back what Councillor Feely and Councillor Green said also. I mean, this is complete discrimination. I mean, and Councillor Wilson talks about it almost it sounds as if they say if farmers aren't able to diversify in Fermanagh that it's their own fault. 92% disadvantaged ground. I'd like to see him try it as right. And it is discrimination. And we know what happened the last time with the ANC payment. And it just, Poots is just, the DUP have done this again and discriminating against hill farmers and sucklers and everything else. So, it is bitterly disappointing for people that work so hard and the backbone of the economy here and putting food on everyone's table. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay. We have a couple of hands that are up from before. I can't really be letting people in twice. But the next up, so if your hands are up, can you take them down, please? We've got Councillor Kelly, I think. Yeah, Councillor Kelly's next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't really know much about farming, but I know sectarian dog whistles when I hear them, and I'm very disappointed in Councillor Wilson's dog whistling about work ethics and so forth. I just wanted to get in and say that as a recipient, a community that's been recipients of dog whistles for many, many years, I recognise them when I hear them.
Can we try and sort of half keep these things just to the very niche points that have been raised? Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to say that it's so frustrating to sit in 2020 and view everything still through the prism of orange and green. It's really, really frustrating to do that still. But what I will say is that my understanding is that in terms of the beef, dairy, sheep, potato and horticulture sectors, there has been a vast amount of work that has been going on with regards to this, and to make sure that the funding is getting to the most at need. And hopefully that will be the case, and hopefully it will be rolled out. But what I will also say is we would be in a worse position for those sectors if there wasn't 25 million sitting there. So at least there is some form of funding coming for those farmers. So, but I just wish we could move away from the, the feelings that, we have to look at everything through an orange and green prism. It's just really frustrating.
Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to make a couple of points. The first point that I want to make is that no matter which way you look at this, the Minister of Agriculture has again left small farmers, and that definition is not Protestant or Catholic. Small farmers are small farmers, and at the start during the COVID, if you had an option to get some funding through the emergency fund in there if you showed a profit. But a lot of the small farmers in our area don't turn a profit. The farms don't turn profits. Now, once again, we are seeing money being allocated to the larger farms that are turning profits. Now, it's a bit like broadband, it's a bit like a mobile signal. It is the small guys who are being left out again. Okay, they're not big producers compared to some of the big farms, but they still deserve a fair allocation of funding when it comes down. And once again, we see the very rurality of these decisions being laid bare, where rurality is being discriminated against to the very small farmers that are struggling in lowlands or highlands there. The second point I want to make, Chair, is that I find it really disappointing that a chair would let another councillor attack an individual councillor in the way that you let Councillor Wilson attack Councillor Green there without asking him to withdraw those remarks. And nobody should be subjected to those sort of personalised attacks about their business or how to conduct their business. And I think it's shameful and disgraceful that you allowed him to do that, Chair. Thank you.
Noted. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to state the economy's in collapse. We're in the middle of a pandemic and we're fighting intractable battles which only divide people. And I found myself agreeing quite strongly with Councillor Thomas O'Reilly's initial comments there, which were that I think we've got to keep this to the issue of small farmers being excluded from grants. I think that affects everybody. There are Protestant small farmers and Catholic ones, regardless about what is the overall demographics. I think that's the way to unite people. And I think that's what we should be doing as a council, is trying to unite people to achieve the best outcomes for everybody. And what we need, I think I would agree, we need to write to the minister. I'm no fan of the agricultural minister by any means, and demand that we have a policy which meets the needs of all farmers, including those small farmers, whatever their religion. And I just want to point out that it's not unusual for big farmers to call on most of the grant aid support. It happens in Britain, it happens in Ireland, it happens all the way through Europe. This is how it's set up. Unfortunately, it's part of capitalism. And so I just feel we as a council need to stop having these sectarian debates, because they're going to divide our communities underneath us. And I think we have a responsibility, all of us, to actually try to bring people together. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Very disappointed and with the remarks there of Councillor Green. I don't know what he's trying to do there. Is he trying to stir it up or whatever? But it certainly doesn't do us good in the community. As a council, we try to work for everyone. I just want to bring a couple of points out on the last page. Both full-time and part-time farmers growers. And Section 75 obligations, and in line with DAERA's equality scheme. Just with regard to Protestant Unionist, there are a lot of small farmers out there. I do live in a rural area. There are a lot of small farmers out there who do come from that tradition. So I think Councillor Green's comments are uncalled for. It's not necessary. There are Protestant unionists who are small farmers like anyone else. And I agree with Councillor Coffey on this occasion. I think we should be there working for everyone. And I don't think this debate should be had in this way at all. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I'm deeply disappointed that some people have tried to make this into a religious argument, nearly sectarianising the issue rather than worrying about the struggling hill farmers and the small rural hill farmers in particular. It's not helpful at all to the community, as has been already said. I'll keep it short. Our farmers aren't getting the support they need, regardless of their background, Chair, and that's what we should be focusing on, getting them the support, not the background. Thank you.
Councillor Dehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Chair, I want to support the comments of Councillor O'Reilly and Councillor O'Coffey in the sense that, you know, what we need to be focusing on is bringing to the Minister's attention that the hill farmers and small farmers are not getting what they need in terms of the support that they require at this difficult time. These farmers are really struggling. And, you know, I know Councillor Erskine has said that a lot of work has gone in to making sure that the money goes to those most in need. But, Chair, I don't think that appears to be the case. I disagree with making this a sectarian issue. I'm strongly opposed to that. It is purely a question of hill farmers and farmers who work areas of natural constraint. Those farmers need help, and I support the call to write to the Minister asking him to look at this again and making sure that this imbalance and this injustice is addressed as a matter of priority. But I don't agree with making it a sectarian issue, Protestant, Catholic, National Unionists. You know, there are small farmers of all religions and none and all political persuasions. And as a council, we need to act in everyone's interests. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Well, the proposal is on the table. I've got hands up still from Councillor Wilson and Councillor Green, unless there's something, and I'm not letting this descend into another fight. Unless there's something that you wish to change. No, Bert, I think in fairness, this is just the proposer.
Money, prices. We are producing milk costing us 28 pence. We're selling it at 24. And, you know, people say that that is a fact. So where is the big profit that the dairy farmer is making?
Okay, right. Well, no, Councillor Green, you have enough to leave your proposal the way it is?
Just to respond, because I was mentioned in a number, and I think I'm entitled to respond. I have been fighting for the hill farmer for a number of years. I never, ever criticised anybody, big farmer or anything else that got money. All I want is that it's done fair. This is the second time this has been done. People has to realise at one time, not too many years ago, in the last 10 years, the big inland farmer was getting subsidy of £1,000 a hectare, whereas the man in the mountain, the farmer, man or woman in the mountain, was getting £110 a hectare. 1,000 to 110. That has started to be turned around now. But now, once it has, there seems to be now an attack on the hill farmer. And what is the reason for it? And that's what I'm asking. And I have bit my tongue a long, long time. And people that I meet, the farming community, are coming to me and saying, why is this not being called out? And I finally decided to ask the question. And I'm not accusing anybody of it. I am asking the question, is that a possibility of why that's been done, that the hill farmer has been left on his own and abandoned? Because for some reason, when the ANC was cut off, 70%, and we all can talk this not keeping having it sectarian around. But when this decision's been made that is perceived as sectarian, when 70% of one community has been attacked and cut, somebody has to call it out and ask for the reason why.
No, I just need to be clear here, Councillor Green, is because the wording here is probably going to depend on quite a lot of people's votes. What is the sort of the wording that you're looking? Are you asking the question of why? Do you want explicit reference to religious or demographic features?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I want to see who or what demographic actually this. At the end of the day, who gets this? Because if Section 75 is going to mean anything, it has to be for fairness and equality.
Okay, right. Well, I have detected a number of dissenting voices. I think it's safe enough to put that to a vote because I think it's been dissent indicated. Alison, if we roll through the names then alphabetically and individuals can vote as they see fit.
Yes, that's fine, Chair. I suppose just for accuracy, then that was
just sorry. If your hands are up for a point of order, say so. If not, we're just going to move on.
Sorry, Chair, can I get clarification just on the actual wording of the proposal then that we're voting on, please?
I think that's what you were.
Yes, sorry, Chair, that's just I was going. So on the proposal of Councillor Swift, seconded by Councillor Green, that the Council writes back to the Minister for Agriculture, seeking a definite assurance that small farmers are being treated fairly and equitably, and to clarify what demographics will actually benefit from the funding as proposed, and to highlight the Council's perception that the allocation as described will disproportionately adversely impact on those from the nationalist community.
Okay.
Maybe just to check, Chair, if it's accurate from the proposer's perspective.
Councillor Green, you happy enough?
Councillor Swift, I think. Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Swift, you're right. Yes. Councillor Swift, are you happy enough?
Yes, satisfied with that. Thank you, Alison.
Okay.
Chair.
What is this? I mean, you've been in twice now, so I mean, unless it's a point of order, it's not being heard.
Can I make a proposal?
You can make it after this vote is heard.
Right.
Okay. Assuming the vote doesn't go through.
Okay, Chair. Okay. Say thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Against.
Councillor Baird.
Against.
Councillor Blake.
For.
Councillor Buchanan. Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Coyle.
For.
Councillor Curry.
Evolver for.
Councillor Deehan.
For.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Erskine.
Against.
Councillor Feely. We have an apology from Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Gannon.
For.
Councillor Garrity.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Irvine.
Against.
Councillor Keenan.
For.
Councillor Catherine Kelly.
For.
Councillor Podrigan Kelly.
For.
Councillor Maguire.
Evening Malta. For.
Councillor McAleer.
For.
Councillor McCaffrey.
Lahayan Malta. For.
Councillor McCann.
For.
Councillor McCloughery.
Against.
Councillor McElduff.
Revolver and Malta for.
Councillor McPhillips.
For.
Councillor O'Coffey.
Abstain.
Councillor O'Reilly.
For.
Councillor Rainey. Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Swift.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Chair, I make that 21 for.
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry. Yeah.
Councillor Buchanan says he tried to vote there. He's on the phone today, and he said, "Did we hear it? We didn't hear it coming through."
I'm happy enough if it's recorded. If we can hear it now before the thing's announced.
Okay. Councillor Buchanan.
Please.
Yeah, I just heard something there.
Against.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Okay, Chair, so I make that 21 for, 13 against, and 1 abstention.
Okay. Councillor Wilson, you said you wanted
carried.
to make... Yeah, it's carried. Councillor Wilson, you said you want to make another proposal. Clearly, this can't be a direct negative of what's just passed. But if you wish, you can propose it now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to make a proposal to the effect that all farmers, regardless of size or what produce they have, get equitable funding from the pot of money that is there.
That's just too close. Councillor Swift.
Look, and just on a point of order, I will not be permitting late votes in future. I will be objecting strongly to that happening, because if it did happen to be a tie type vote on an important issue, something like that should not be permitted going forward. And I mean that in the fairest possible way, please. So if you're not in when your name's called, there should be no reverting back to votes. It wouldn't happen if we were in real time or all of that. We can't be sure if people... Yeah, but hold on a wee minute. I can't be sure if people are sitting at their screens paying attention to the meeting. And this is nothing personal with Councillor Buchanan. I think as proper and formal going forward, that must be taken into account.
Councillor Warrington.
Well, I'm
no. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Well, just in response to that last comment there, at the end of the day, we're having poor internet service, and I know certainly on several meetings we have gone back to individuals who have been unable to vote for whatever reason, whether it's poor broadband or whatever. So I don't see what the difference was tonight and the difference in other meetings in the past. So I don't. That was a very silly comment to make.
I would ask Councillor Warrington to
No, she never asked then. Okay, I am not having this devolving into
have a bit of manners.
Hit it again. I'm not having this fighting an argument between the two of you. If you want in, you raise your hand and I bring you in turn. Councillor McCloughery. John.
Thank you. I believe that we have raised during the many discussions at the start of the month, and it was agreed, or at least indicated, that if you were present at the start of the meeting and at some stage you lost connectivity, you were allowed to come in and vote through another means. So I can't see what the issue is here. Councillor Buchanan said he was here at the start of the meeting, so and I distinctly heard him say he was here at the start of the meeting, so I can understand what the issue is. If you're here at the start of the meeting, you lose connectivity, you're still at the meeting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of anxious to try and move on here, to be honest. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I'll not get into that issue that was raised. It lies with yourself as Chair. Just would like to propose that we move on to the next item.
Okay, well, that's fair enough by my point. There is a proposal, but it's not seconded, and it's very close to a direct negative of what Councillor Swift said. So I'm going to move on. I have it as page 13, yeah? Page 13, page 14, page 15. Adam, your hand's still up, by the way. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Page 15, it's the item Matters Arising 7.2. I was looking at this Eat Well, Live Well, and it's obviously really disappointing, the figures that have been in our district. But I looked at the priorities, funding priorities under this programme were initially the START programme. And when you look at it in more depth, it runs in North Down Ards in the Greater Belfast area. The second priority is flare. Now, flare is in Oma, but people I've spoken to, we don't know an awful lot about flare. So I would be interested to know, could we ask for a report to come back on the funding that is coming, the spread of funding for the health improvement that's coming into Northern Ireland, and could we just see the spread of where that funding is? Because again, is it rural approved? Is it fair and equitable? This is what we're finding across the board. Could I have that report at the next meeting, please? Thank you.
Okay, well, that's a proposal on the table. Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second that. I think in the response, it kind of contradicts itself. It says that all young people who have registered in need have been provided with a food box, but it also says that the scheme reached its maximum capacity within a couple of days and was significantly oversubscribed. So it's kind of, it's saying that it was all boxes were ticked, whereas in fact they stopped taking names and just then took it for granted that everybody who applied was in receipt of a food parcel. So it's not quite good enough, as it was noted at the last meeting. 136 children out of just under 6,000 in this area are getting free school meals. I think it's not good enough, and it's good that we're writing back when the executive are able to afford to pay £300,000 to a consultancy firm to review its own work for Dalradian. I think we shouldn't be crying poverty when it comes to feeding vulnerable children. So I'm happy to second that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I was coming in to second it, but there was people to the buzzer there. I also would have concerns here, especially from the Fermanagh side of the district. So I fully support what has been proposed and hope a report is brought back for the next meeting.
Okay. Emma, your hand's still up, but I'm just going to take that as...
Sorry, Chair. Very briefly, it was just on
get one sentence, like
page 13. Just it was to do with the planning portal. Just
right. Hold on. We're jumping all over the place. We'll come to that in time. You can come back to that now. In terms of page 15, 7.2, we have a proposal and a seconded proposal. Do we have any disagreement? Nope. Okay, carried. Right, Emmett, sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, Chair, thank you. It's just in relation to the it's page 13, item 7.1, and it's the planning portal discussions in relation to Mid-Ulster. Just it was noted so that Mid-Ulster hadn't provided clarification why they had proceeded separately. Now they had subsequently contacted me to let me know that there were significant cost savings as well as the advantages of the council procuring its own system, including the ability to bring in a replacement system quicker, tailor the configuration to best meet local needs, autonomy over the project, and greater flexibility in contract duration. So I think it would have definitely done no harm for us to make contact with them, even if we we had proceeded with or decided on a course of action. I think it definitely would have done no harm to hear a wee bit more on the advantages to proceeding in the way that they were going to proceed. It's just unfortunate that vote didn't go in our favour. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Okay. I feel obliged to tell members that we're about 5 pages in here and we're nearly an hour. So at this pace we won't get it finished, but that's a decision for members to make. Page 16. Eamon. Councillor Keenan.
Hello, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. What are you looking in on?
The letter from the RQIA.
We
Chair.
haven't quite got to that yet, and I think
it's in the next meeting.
It's in the yeah. That's in time. Page 16, 17.
Chair, just on page 17, to advise members of the correspondence received from the Office of the First and Deputy First Ministers, noting that the Council is in correspondence on Project Stratum with the Department for the Economy, and therefore it wouldn't be appropriate for a meeting with the First and Deputy First Ministers on this subject.
Okay. First up, Councillor Curry.
Maybe Alison, could you just confirm, have we, my recollection is that we have invited the economy minister to meet. I can't remember just whether that was with the council or with the broadband working group. Can you just confirm that?
Yes, no, Chair, we have, and it was with the council because it was recognised it was of strategic importance really for all members.
Okay, and there's been no response?
To the best of my recollection, Chair, the letter that we received back previously was given the minister's time commitments. It was unlikely that a meeting could be accommodated at this time, and we got a written update as to the status of the project.
Okay, can I propose then that we go back to the minister now? I mean, this has really been highlighted more and more during the COVID pandemic, and it's highlighted, you know, what's been called the digital divide, you know, and our connectivity in rural areas. And it is imperative, I think, if the project stratum is moving along, but we are not really getting any say in it. So could we contact the minister's office again and just ask for a meeting as a matter of urgency? Can I propose that?
That's a proposal. Yeah, 100%. Now I see a long list of names, which, you know, everyone's entitled to speak. However, please bear in mind time. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second Councillor Curry's proposal there. It seems sensible because this is such an important issue. If I remember correctly as well, we were due to have a meeting with the two junior ministers, which was cancelled. Now, maybe I could be wrong, but I was under the impression that that was to be rearranged for a later point, or does this letter, obviously with the junior ministers working so close with OFM, DFM, that this is a letter says that won't be happening? Because if they're not meeting us, it does beg the question of the dodging us, avoiding us. You know, we're, you know, elected reps aren't standing over the project at the minute. And when I say elected reps, I mean those in Stormont. They're not coming down for questioning. And don't get me wrong, Project Stratum has potential to do amazing work and make an amazing difference. But those most in need of intervention won't get it with the current project outline. And you know, at that meeting with Mid Ulster Council back a while now ago, but all of the parties and independents from both our own chamber and Mid Ulster were united and all agreed that we should be working to get those most in need of intervention to get it. So I hope that we have a meeting soon, because the private sector has failed and people in those areas, and we need intervention with those most in need ASAP. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, Chair, just to advise, my understanding would be that this correspondence sort of supersedes the potential of any other meeting other than with the Department for the Economy, and members will note just the date. So this was received on the 9th of June. The meeting with the junior ministers was due to be the 10th, and as you'll recall, it was cancelled at very short notice. So I think our route will be with the Department for the Economy.
Yep. Okay. Eamon, your hand's still up. I'm going to jump one ahead of you in case you aren't want to come in.
I was looking at it, Chris, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Fair enough then.
I just, in that letter to the Department of the Economy, could I just, if Siobhan's happy enough, add a few wee bits to it?
That's up to Siobhan. But put it forward, sure, and see what she says.
Right, ask them to ensure that this project is delivered without hesitation and that it's fully inclusive without any discrimination of the rural communities, and any area that that this service is also going to be of quality without inferior quality in rural areas. Also, this service can't be driven by profit only, because it has to be considered as a human right on the basis of equality, and that isolation and the lack of communication would be a detriment to all people in rural areas.
Okay. I'm okay, Councillor Curry. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I think that's why we have been wanting to meet with the minister for so long. You know, we all know here that our district is the most disadvantaged when it comes to broadband connectivity. So that's what we're trying to speak that through with the minister. We had all sorts of assurances this was going to be brilliant, Project Stratum, and the less and less involved we are, I think the more and more sceptical we're becoming, particularly when the terms and conditions around it appear to be being rewritten. But yes, I'm happy for those to be included, but I would like for us to be meeting with the minister to put all of that to the minister instead of her dilly-dallying on it now.
Okay. Councillor Swift.
Yes, fully agree with all the salient points that have already been made, and I think it is time that the Minister did see and hear our expressions vociferously on this very topic. We have the very sad experience of the complete disconnectivity of our poor broadband service. The national broadband is up and running in the 26 counties. We need to see this project delivered without hesitation, and it is to that end that I definitely want to be speaking to the Minister on behalf of all of our constituents. It's very disappointing that the junior ministers had to postpone it last minute, and I know it will be well thrashed out at our upcoming broadband working group, but yes, definitely we need to remain and stay firm because our rural lives matter.
Councillor Erskine.
And I'll second that motion as well for Siobhan. Sorry, Chris.
I thought it was already second.
Yes, Councillor Gannon.
Yep.
Oh,
well, right. Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. I think, Alison, maybe you could clarify this, but I thought a letter had already went to the Economy Department for the Minister, subsequent to the last letter requesting dates. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yes, Chair, just to say that that's correct, Councillor. I think then we got correspondence to indicate that with the current commitments on the Minister's schedule, an early meeting was unlikely, and we got a written update as to the status of the project. We had also asked in that letter around pausing the procurement and specific aspects, and we had a response on those matters as well. So I think from that most recent letter, it was unlikely that a meeting would be imminent.
Okay, I mean, I do have a bit of sympathy in ways with ministers at the minute because their schedules are hectic with the COVID pandemic, and things have been pulled out of diaries at the last minute to deal with the situations arising out of that. What I will say is that I think we should also welcome the announcement by Openreach for rural villages and towns, fibre broadband announcement, and some of those villages that are going to receive some of that over the next few years are going to be in our north, so it's good to see that. But yeah, I do have some sympathy with ministers at the moment, and I think when we initially had talked about this, the Economy Department was the department that we should be trying, not the First Minister and Deputy First Minister's office, and as we've seen, that's what the letter has come back to say.
Okay. Well, Eamon, your hand's still up, but I'm going to assume it just wasn't brought down. Alison, do you want to just clarify the proposal so everyone knows what we're voting on?
Well, Chair, I suppose that we write back to the DFE Minister and request an urgent meeting to clarify the status of the project, but also then to highlight the importance of the scheme itself should be delivered without any detriment to the rural community, recognising that broadband is a human right and that it should not be private sector or profit-led, and there should be no compromise on quality for rural areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've seen something in the chat, but you vote on the proposal that's in front of you. Have we any objections to that proposal? If you have, indicate now. Nope. Okay, that's passed. I'm seeing no more hands up, so we move on. Page 17 and page 18. Okay. Can I have a proposer? No.
No, Chair, they're all agreed.
Oh, no, you're right. That's a fair point. Right, chuck that down. Now we go on to... what was that noise? We go on to the second paper, which is the reconvened council meeting on the 16th. And we go through it page by Page 1, page 2, page 3.
Yep. Chair, if I could, there are just two letters here to highlight to members. Firstly, Chair, the letter dated the 6th of July from the Minister for the Economy regarding the Council's representations in relation to the requirement for a moratorium, highlighting the gaps that now emerged and an opportunity therefore for a moratorium to issue. Today, Chair, we received correspondence from the Minister for Infrastructure, so that's included in the other correspondence folder but is relevant to this item as well. And the focus on our correspondence to the DFI Minister was asking for the implementation of legislation to withdraw permitted development rights to be brought forward as a matter of urgency. And in that letter, the Minister sets out the previous consultation process and also highlights the linkages to the Department for the Economy and notes the wider representations that the Council was making. I suppose finally, Chair, members will recall we had discussed the inter-strata proposal, so the Minister comments on that particular application as well and references the Council to Mid and East Antrim Borough Council as the relevant planning authority.
I have a number of hands. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll try and rally through this as quickly as I can. I think the Minister in the first letter now, the Department for Economy, the Minister herself acknowledges, we're dealing with an outdated couple of acts here. They're over 50 years old. She notes as well that it's an unsafe industry in relation to fracking, but seems to question, what more research and what more research needs to be carried out and what more prioritising of the economy over people's health and well-being needs to be carried out. On the second page of the letter, she indicates that an internal review highlighted that there was a better need to understand, the benefits and impacts of exploration for, I don't think that is the case. What we need to prioritise is protecting people's health, the air they breathe, the water they drink, the land and the environment they live in. So I would make 3 points in relation to Minister Dodd's letter. First is that I would take it that members hopefully will share my concern that Minister Dodds does not accept the need to ban hydraulic fracturing, but proposes to open the discussion that further research is needed so that we can better understand the economic, societal and environmental impacts of this technique before any decision on future policy is made. The evidence is clear. It's clear from countries like the United States of America and from England, and it's also clear from objections in counties like Antrim, Fermanagh and Leitrim and elsewhere that this is a toxic industry and it's not wanted here. I would propose that the Council ask the Minister to ensure that consultation on the review does not focus on those with a direct financial interest in either the oil or mining industry, and indeed the Geological Survey Northern Ireland, who design the consultation method, or the design of the consultation method seems to be very narrow to exclude people outside a certain loop. And the final point on this is that Minister Dodds has excluded gold and precious minerals from the consultation, and that's just not good enough. I understood that this was to be included in the current review. People have to be allowed to have their say. There has to be a framework for citizens to design this policy and be involved in this policy design. It's not good enough to suggest that in 2020, policy on such an environmentally toxic business as gold mining should rest solely with a faceless, unaccountable body that is the Crown Estate Commission. So we need to ask the Minister Dodds to update this Council on the Department's communications with the Crown Estate regarding long overdue review of policy on precious minerals. And just very briefly then, in relation to the second letter and from the Minister for the Infrastructure, I would propose as well that we contact Mid and East Antrim Borough Council, stressing our opposition to this development and hope that local concerns regarding the environment and the cost to tourism and wildlife will be fully considered as part of this potential decision. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to second what has just been said there by Councillor McAleer. This is a disgraceful response, frankly, from the Minister for the Economy. Page 3, she basically refuses to put a moratorium on fracking and is not considering the suspension of licensing in advance, which actually allows the door open for applicants to come in, make an application, and then if it is eventually decided that this doesn't proceed, to sue the executive for untold amounts of money. And not only that, but we're going to see public money spent on a tender for independent research into the impacts of petroleum exploration onshore, which is again fracking. So it's frankly outrageous. I'm happy at the very least to second what Councillor McAleer said. I have to say this is a collective executive decision. I do note that there's now moves to dissever collective executive decision making, but this is only going to make even more this joint government and these sort of things creep through. And finally, just in regard to the response from the Minister for Infrastructure, again, it leaves it open, and the whole PDR process has not been decided whether they're going to be taken away from those doing these sort of toxic industries, because let's remember what happened in 2014 in Belcoo and Fermanagh happened precisely because of PDRs left the door open to substantive drilling about to happen, and it would have resulted in catastrophic impact in terms of the community. So we just can't have this happening, and at the very least, I second Councillor McAleer's. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I don't have any more indications. So we have a proposal which is proposed by Councillor McAleer, second by Councillor Coffey. 4 parts, but I'll probably just take them in one unless I hear any dissent. If you have dissent, if you wish to object to those, please say now. Oh, okay.
Object.
Sorry?
Councillor Irvine, I object.
Okay. Robert, is there any other objections?
Councillor Thompson, object.
Well, then we're gonna have to put to a vote, aren't we? Right. We'll put it to a roll call.
Chair, so this is for the first proposal then that the
Sorry, can I call for a recorded vote? Sorry to jump across you there, Chief Executive.
Yeah.
So this is in relation to the response to the first letter, which is the Department for the Economy, the concerns really as articulated by Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor O'Coffey. And just to summarise, Chair, the concerns that the Minister in her letters indicated will not be banning fracking, to ask the Minister that the consultations will not focus on those with specific vested interests in the industry. The Council will be meaningfully engaged, expressing concern about the exclusion of gold and precious metals from the consultation, seek an update from the for the Council with the department's on the department's communications with the Crown Estates.
Okay.
So Councillor Armstrong, Chair.
Against.
Councillor Baird.
Against.
Councillor Blake.
For.
Councillor Buchanan.
You have to cycle back to him at the end, sure.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Coyle.
For.
Councillor Coffey.
Evalver, for.
Councillor Deehan.
For, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Councillor Sean Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Erskine.
Against.
Councillor Feely.
For.
Councillor Councillor Gannon.
For.
Councillor Garrity.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Irvine.
Against.
Councillor Keenan.
For.
Councillor Catherine Kelly.
For.
Councillor Podrigan Kelly. Sorry, Councillor
Four.
Councillor Potter. Four. Sorry, Councillor Maguire.
Stephen Moulton, 4.
Councillor McAleer.
4.
Councillor McCaffrey.
Takiel Gleason Mullu, 4.
Councillor McCann.
4.
Councillor McCloughery.
Against.
Councillor McElduff.
Lahayan Malta, 4.
Councillor McPhillips.
4.
Councillor O'Coffey. Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Rainey.
Against.
Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Swift.
4.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Just, I'd like to remind everybody, if they'd please remute. Alison's just checking the scores and the doors. But we've got a few councillors who still haven't got live. There we go. There we go.
Chair, that is 21 for and 13 against.
Okay, that proposal
So that's
is
carried.
Carried. Yep. Okay, okay. I'm seeing no more indications, so we move on. Page 2, page 3. Page 3, is there? Page...
Yes, Chair, we'll sort of page 3 and into page 4, really.
Oh, okay.
Just to highlight correspondence received, Chair, in relation to, from the Minister for Health, regarding the concerns about a potential second wave at food processing plants and the arrangements that have been put into place. So that's the first letter there, Chair. The second letter then is from the RQIA. Sorry, that comes later, beg your pardon. So just the foil food group at this time and the food processing plants.
Okay. Councillor O'Coffey.
Sorry, Chair, it was for the next one, so.
Okay. Well, do we have a proposal if no one wants to speak just to note that?
Please, Chair, yeah.
Yeah. We've got Councillor Deehan.
Propose to note, Chair.
Okay. Barry, which is Councillor Michael Duff.
Chair, is it appropriate just to make a comment about the foil foods issue at this minute?
Yeah, go on ahead, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just, I want to ask Alison, through you as Chair, if the Council has or will have enhanced powers to identify and respond to localised clusters. The point I'm making is, should there be a second wave of coronavirus, which nobody wants, and should a meat plant or any other facility emerge as a localised cluster, would the Council have the ability to be proactive, working in partnership with the PHA and other government bodies? But there is talk of councils getting enhanced powers in these matters, so that's my question, Chair.
Yep, Chair, I think as Councillor Michael Duff has indicated there's certainly indications of moving towards that. We are not there yet, Councillor, and we don't have the detail of it. And I know the most recent cluster outbreak in Limavady, which members will be aware of, was led entirely by the PHA in terms of their work following that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is something that comes forward for your consideration, but we certainly don't have that at present.
Okay.
Well, Chair, can I just propose that we write to the Department of Health to make that inquiry? Is the executive or is the Department of Health of a mind to delegate increased powers, enhanced powers to local government to identify and respond to localised clusters of coronavirus? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. We think we've got two proposals on the table, neither in a second. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to second the proposal by Councillor Deehan to note, and I'm happy to also second Councillor Michael Duff's proposal.
Okay, and I see no more indications, so we'll put the first one, which is proposed by Councillor Deehan, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Anyone who wishes to vote against it, please indicate now. Nope. Okay, we'll take that one as passed. The second one, proposed by Councillor Michael Duff, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Anyone wish to vote against, please indicate now. No. Okay, I'll take those both as passed. Councillor Armstrong, your hand's still up just. So we'll move on. Page 4, page 5. Who was up first? Councillor Amy Keenan.
No, yeah, just on the RQAA letter.
It's page 8, Chair, just to say when we come to that, maybe. For
Yeah, okay. Page 8. So just.
Sorry.
Yep, jumping the gun a wee bit. There's a few hands went up there, but they've all went down. So page 5, page 6. Donal.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, it's at the bottom of page 6 there. There was a discussion on broadband difficulties in council meetings. At the very bottom there, it says the council was at liberty to adopt a different position, basically that if a member was not able to attend or actually hear a meeting, or like I think Councillor Green has repeatedly raised this, frankly, and I'm just wondering, as a body, are we happy that we are going to proceed? Because it's obviously within our rights that we as a body can decide that if a councillor can't hear a meeting, we can change that as clearly provided on that page. So I'm just asking if there is a proposal. Maybe some other members feel more, as I'm not affected by this, but I do feel very concerned that there are members in this council. I completely probably disagree with them many times, but they have a right to participate, and I don't feel comfortable, frankly, that that they're not actually participating in decisions that affect the voters that put them into this chamber. So it's just more than anything flagging up. I would support a change if there was one coming.
Awesome.
Yeah, Chair, maybe just to clarify for councillors, we did actually address that in the protocol that you adopted at the last meeting, specifically around connectivity issues and voting. So provision was made for such circumstances. And that has then been adopted by the council.
Okay. Yeah, been after all.
I'm fine if everyone else is, yeah.
Oh, okay. No, that's right. So bottom page 6, page 7, page 8.
Yes, and just then, Chair, to highlight, we have the correspondence back from RQIA in relation to the council's queries regarding PPE stocks for care homes.
Okay. 3 indications. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Chair, we actually do have a motion on care homes coming up later on the agenda, item 6.3. So I'll be brief. I'm not at all happy, Chair, with the response of RQIA in this regard. To me, it seems that they are really absolving themselves of any responsibility in relation to the supply of PPE. Now, they do state in their letter that they are not responsible for the supply chain for PPE, and I accept that. But surely, and we may be able to discuss this further under the motion on care homes, surely the lack of adequate PPE was a major factor in the number of people in that sector suffering from COVID-19, and sadly the high number of fatalities. So going forward, and in the event that we do have a second surge, which I hope we don't, this is a really crucial issue. So what I would like to propose is that we as a council write back to RQIA stating our view that it should be an item of huge priority for them as a regulatory authority to ensure that care homes are given every priority when it comes to the protection of residents and the workforce. Because I think this has been a key factor in the tragedy that has unfolded up to date. So I'd like to propose that, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. I will agree with Councillor Deehan that the RQAA are trying to dupe the responsibilities, but I have a slightly different proposal. They've stated that the care homes will be supplemented by the Health and Social Care Trust under the authority of the Department of Health. Future queries should be directed to the Health and Social Care Trust. On that basis, as Councillor Dean rightly says, they're due the responsibilities. I believe that we should follow the lead from Darien to Strabane, and we should call for domiciliary care services across the north to be brought back into the public ownership and part of the National Health Service. And I think we need a right to the Department of Health, CNA, and the Department of Health in the 26 counties and all councils in the 32 counties. I think there's another failure of capitalism and its outsourcing and bring everything into the private sector. Again, many deaths could have been avoided, and I think it should all be brought into public ownership. I think we need a right to all those authorities.
Well, I think that's quite clearly a separate proposal now, so we'll take them both in turn. Councillor Coffey.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to add a wee bit there, as well as bringing it into the public ownership, that there should be an all Ireland health service encompassed within that. Thank you.
Okay. Don't know, I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but
yeah, it's first of all, I'd be happy enough to second the proposal from Councillor Deehan in regard to the need for bringing back care homes. Certainly, they should be in the public sector, so I'd be happy to support that. But I think the idea of an All Ireland NHS, I think that's bringing a constitutional matter really into an issue where I support the NHS in the Republic of Ireland, but we don't have any authority to bring that in. The place we currently have Micheál Martin in charge of it, and I wouldn't like to have Micheál Martin cutting our NHS services here. So I would like to see, if possible, maybe we could amend Councillor Keenan's proposal to say that we should have we call for the establishment of an NHS on both parts, north and south, on Ireland, and also subjected to democratic control, including by the workers, and that indeed that there should be maximum possible cooperation, north, south, and east, west. But I do know we have another motion come forward. I really wanted to raise another proposal on the back of this, because this correspondence details the crisis.
I don't know. Would it maybe be appropriate? I can foresee a bit of debate on this. Could you maybe hold that one? I'll come back to you.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all right. Right. That's okay. Well, firstly, I'm going to go. I've got two indications by Councillor Keenan and Councillor Wilson. I'm going to go to Eamon first. You've been asked to amend your proposal. It's entirely up to you whether you do so or not. And then we'll go to Councillor Wilson. Eamon.
Well, on Donald's amendment, which doesn't want it encompassed within the 32 county one, I'd be against that, because as the COVID pandemic has showed us, it doesn't discriminate against any borders, and I believe that's the way we need to go forward.
Okay. Well, I'm going to count then. Your proposal is at present unseconded then, but somebody else can come and second it later on. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair. Well, I do not agree with that proposal in any form, because there's a lot of young women and young men as well out there who are not happy to go on to any organisation where they're restricted. They are quite happy to go and help people elderly for a medication of whatever they agree with the person themselves. So I for one, wouldn't be supporting that.
Okay. Councillor Michael Duff.
Chair, can I say that if I heard Councillor O'Coffey's proposal again, I think I would be prepared to second it.
Well, no, Councillor O'Coffey was seconding Councillor Deehan's proposal. Okay. He has another proposal coming up, but I just want
to make the Sinn Féin position clear. Sinn Féin supports a national health service model for the whole island of Ireland, free at the point of entry. But there's maybe one thing that the council maybe needs to address. It's maybe the very short notice that some very substantive, ideological driven, potentially divisive proposals are made, and maybe sometimes it might be good to get the opportunity for these types of proposals to be discussed at committee level, with proper notice. I'm not putting down any individual councillor for this, but what I'm saying is that there appears to be a nervousness among councillors when they're asked a second's notice to vote on very substantive matters, including political ideology. And in this matter, I mean, I'm 100% sure that the Sinn Féin position is that we support an All-Ireland National Health Service type model for all our citizens, free at the point of entry. So I'm clear about that. But I just think that maybe we need to take some guidance on very substantive matters that are put before us at seconds notice. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Chair, I would concur with that, and I think what we're getting on occasion would be something that would otherwise be described as a motion. And certainly, to the best of my knowledge, there have been similar motions through neighbouring councils on exactly these themes. So I think it's a valid point. We don't normally have a capacity, but we could certainly look at that in the context of the review as to how space could be created at committees for such discussions. But I would think the substantive matters, particularly those ideological in nature, would generally be framed as a motion, and members would have the normal notice period for those to be considered.
Yeah. You have enough, Barry?
Hi, thanks for that. And, I suppose if we look forward to even revising working groups and subcommittees and such matters, health is really, really important. Maybe the substantive discussion should be held in the healthcare group initially and then worked up through the council, because I do know that there's a discomfort factor in everybody having to just think on their feet instantly within seconds on deeply ideological matters. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Swift.
Yeah, Garmal Look, I would be supportive, obviously, of the All-Ireland Health proposal. I had mentioned it way back at the start of COVID, and we did have agreement in the Lakeland Forum, I do believe it was, at the time. So I would like to second Councillor Keenan's proposal, perhaps though, given the depth and the thrust of what others are saying, and Alison has pointed it out there, if it's to go back to the appropriate committee for further discussion, if Councillor Keenan will be happy with that. I'm happy enough to think on my feet on those matters, but obviously if other people, as Michael Duff has already said, as Barry has said, if they are not content to do the same. But I'm already on record as having requested and supported the same. We already see later on in other matters of correspondence how the two-tier system does not work on the island, and it creates serious discrimination and inappropriate delivery of the necessary healthcare services, particularly for border workers and frontier workers, etc. So for all of those considerations, we definitely need to have that all-Ireland approach.
But just before you go off there, just for clarity, you're happy to second it as it stands?
Yes,
okay.
I am.
Right. Well, Councillor Keenan, there have been a number of suggestions put to you, but the proposal is yours. You can do it with it as you please. Do you want to make a change, or are you happy to keep with things the way they are? It's entirely your call.
I'm happy enough with the way it is. I'm just a wee bit confused as to Councillor Michael Duff's stance. He says it's part
Hold on. I don't really, let's not go. No, hold on. Both of you, please try and make this. No. If you have to hit him, hit him.
Something you need to take away and think about it.
Mute that. Right, you've already had your go in, and I'm not having fights between individuals. If it's going to be done, it's going to be done through me, and you'll be brought in time. I would foresee this will be contentious.
Point of order.
Yep.
Would it be possible for the wording of Councillor Keenan's meeting to be motion or proposal to be presented to us for consideration. I'm all in favour, absolutely, of an all-Ireland National Health Service model. But are there other aspects of the proposal? You know, I would like to see it written out. I would like to see it put to the council, or at least read out. What is the nature of the proposal? Can it be read out in its totality?
I sympathise. I'm trying to think of a mechanism that would allow that. What do you think, Alison? Is there any mechanism?
Well, Chair, not to share in writing at this point, but I could certainly summarise the notes that I have taken. But I appreciate it is quite detailed. But if you wish, Chair, I can summarise that for members.
Yeah.
So as I
understand
it, what Councillor Keenan has proposed is that we write to the Department of Health, the HSE, all councils in the 32 counties, to urge that we bring care homes into public ownership in the context of an all-island health service on the island of Ireland.
Okay.
Just maybe to clarify, Chair, if that's with Councillor Keenan.
Yes, and it'd be, as Barry rightly said, free from the cradle to the grave, and a free health service for all on the island of Ireland.
But you're happy enough to table it now?
Yeah.
That's what you want. Okay. Well, then I foresee this going to a vote. Now we actually have a proposal before that, which is proposed by Councillor Deehan and seconded by Councillor O'Coffey. Might be an idea to clarify that one before.
Well, yeah, Chair, that was that we write back to the RQIA to advise that the review, but also the purchase and provision of appropriate PPE should be a huge priority for them, and that this, the view of the council is that this has been a key factor in some of the situations to date relating to the management of COVID-19 in the care home setting.
Okay. Well, I think we can, if we put that one to a vote first, it may pass without needing to be roll called. Anyone who wishes to vote against that, please indicate now verbally. If not, it will be passed.
Chair, yes, I wish to vote against it.
This is Councillor Deehan's one up to the RQIA.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we put it to a. Then we put it to a.
Chair, okay, so just to clarify then, Chair, this is Councillor Deehan's proposal, seconded by Councillor O'Coffey, about the representations to be made to RQIA. Councillor Armstrong?
For.
Councillor Baird?
For.
Councillor Blake?
For.
Councillor Buchanan?
For.
Councillor Campbell?
For.
Councillor Clark? Councillor Coyle?
For.
Councillor Curry?
Evaver for.
Councillor Deehan?
For.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly?
For.
Councillor Sean Donnelly?
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly? Councillor Elliott?
For.
Councillor Erskine?
For.
Councillor Feely?
For.
Apology from Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Gannon?
For.
Councillor Garrity?
For.
Councillor Green?
For.
Councillor Irvine?
For.
Councillor Keenan?
For.
Councillor Catherine Kelly? Councillor Podrigan Kelly?
For.
Councillor Maguire?
In favour, Malta. For.
Councillor McAleer?
For.
Councillor McCaffrey?
Takiak Leshan Manu. For.
Councillor McCann?
For.
Councillor McCloughery?
For.
Councillor McElduff?
Devolver, for.
Councillor McPhillips?
For.
Councillor O'Coffey?
For.
Councillor O'Reilly?
For.
Councillor Rainey?
For.
Councillor Robinson?
For.
Councillor Smith?
For.
Councillor Swift?
For.
Councillor Thompson?
For.
Councillor Thornton?
4.
Councillor Warrington.
4.
And Councillor Wilson.
Chair, yes, I did not hear it properly, but I do agree. We'll vote for it. Yes, I didn't hear the proposal properly. Thank you.
Okay. So that one's passed unanimously. And now we move on to the second proposal, which is now seconded. Which has already been detailed by the chief executive. I imagine it's going to go to a roll call as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I heard somebody. I don't know who it was though.
Sure. Can I bring forward an amendment proposal to this, because I think that we're in danger of something getting lost here. Frankly, I think it's
Donald.
Yes.
I think I've asked Councillor Keenan twice if he's going to amend. So I think if he was going to, he would have. And I think he's more than content to put it forward now. And individuals can vote as they see fit. But I think I've asked him twice now, and both times he's been very clear. And it's his proposal, and it's been seconded. So I think it goes to a vote.
Okay, so Chair, then this is Councillor Keenan's proposal, seconded by Councillor Swift. Councillor Armstrong?
Against.
Councillor Baird?
Against. Be careful what you wish for.
Councillor Blake?
4.
Councillor Buchanan?
Against.
Councillor Campbell?
4.
Councillor Clark? Councillor Coyle?
4.
Councillor Curry?
Involver, 4.
Councillor Deehan?
Abstain.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly?
4.
Councillor Sean Donnelly?
4.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly? Councillor Elliott?
Against.
Councillor Erskine?
Against.
Councillor Feely?
4.
An apology from Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Gannon?
4.
Councillor Garrity?
4.
Councillor Green?
4.
Councillor Irvine?
Against.
Councillor Keenan?
4.
Councillor Catherine Kelly? Councillor Podrick? Oh, sorry. Okay.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Podrick Kelly?
4.
Councillor Maguire?
In favour of Malta, 4.
Councillor McAleer?
4.
Councillor McCaffrey?
Jane Taki Glashan Molu, 4.
Councillor McCann?
4.
Councillor McCloughery?
Against.
Councillor McElduff?
Aye. 4.
Councillor McPhillips?
4.
Councillor O'Coffey?
4.
Councillor O'Reilly?
4.
Councillor Rainey?
Against.
Councillor Robinson?
Against.
Councillor Smith?
Against.
Councillor Swift?
4.
Councillor Thompson?
Against.
Councillor Thornton?
Against.
Councillor Warrington?
Against.
And Councillor Wilson?
Against.
Okay.
Okay, Chair, so that is 22 for, 14 against, and 1 abstention.
Okay,
So that's carried.
That carries as well. Now, Donald, I'd cut you off here to try and just for administrative ease, but I picked up you had maybe another proposal you want to raise.
Yeah, it's a very complicated thing. Well, I had to support that because it's in the nationalisation of Kelm. So what I wanted to raise was on the RQIA, the PPE, they've given. I completely agree with what Councillor Josephine said in the past. My issue I want to now raise is because, as we're probably all aware, dentists do not have level 2 PPE, and I think it's absolutely essential we don't miss this opportunity to go back to the health minister. So I'd like to propose we write to the health minister, demand action for the supply of level 2 PPE to ensure dentists can continue to provide a service, in particular aerosol generating procedures, which are currently a major problem. So that's only one of the issues that they have, but even if that could be resolved, it would certainly take away the risk we faced, which was earlier on today. We could have had the situation today where if the emergency treatment centres had closed, there would actually be no provision in many areas for people requiring anything involving drilling. So I'd like to propose that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I have 4 indications. Councillor Michael Duff, your hand up on that one. Nope. Okay, Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, I'd support Donal there, second that. With regards to the dentists not having the PPE, sort of, I've been contacted by a few constituents myself that dentists aren't actually taking NHS patients, they're making them pay. So again, this sort of supports the previous motion that, it also need to be brought back into public ownership and that sort of thing. So fully support Donald's hopefully.
Okay, I'll take it as a second. Councillor Wilson, your hand's up.
Chair, I was going to second that.
Okay.
My own son had to get a dentist out of somewhere and had to go. It was a matter of urgency. So I believe that, yes, PPE is a necessity, and I would support that. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify with regard to the proposal of Councillor O'Coffey. Is this all dentists or is it NHS dentists he's talking about? Does he include all the private dentists that's making all the money?
Don't know.
Well, maybe Councillor Thornton doesn't realise, but most dentists actually provide NHS services anyway. So I would be proposing that PPE be provided for our NHS patients, and that would follow whoever provides that service. But at the moment, Councillor Thornton may be aware that payment for NHS services such as fractures can be as low as £10 per filling. So the whole service is completely and chronically underfunded. I personally would totally agree with what Councillor Keenan's saying, which is needs to be brought back into public ownership as it was back in 1948. But we're in the world where people like me don't control Stormont and people like Councillor Thornton and others do. So what I'm looking for is something that will actually prevent people from not having any treatment at all, which is the likelihood if Councillor Keenan's minister continues to go along, Councillor Thornton's minister continues to go along the path that he's going.
Okay. Councillor Thornton, your hand is still up. I'm not really going to let this get into sort of one-on-one with you two. There we go. There we go. We have a proposal on the table with no more indications. If you wish to vote against this, please indicate now, verbally. No. Okay. I'm taking that as passed. I'm taking that as passed. Okay. Right. Page. We're on page 8, 9, 10, 11.
Chair, just to advise members, and we did link it also with this letter, but we did issue separate correspondence to the Minister of Agriculture regarding the 25 million funding. So just the 2 letters did issue, but the Minister, we discussed it in the earlier part of the meeting.
Okay. That's no indications. So just keep going, or do you want to, yeah, just keep going. 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, okay. So that's the European Council meeting 16th of June. Okay, we move on now to 5 correspondence.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the first item is correspondence dated the 13th of May from Dalradian Gold. So 2 aspects really to this, Chair. Firstly, members will recall we issued this in March of last year. This was then received after, just the day after our last council meeting in May, and at that meeting the council had indicated that if it didn't, I suppose, depending on the response received, we would consider whether further action was required. So in summary, the letter from Dalradian is indicating that they would not be able to monitor the full extent of carbon neutrality until the facility itself is operational.
Okay, we have two indications. Councillor McAleer. Three indications.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, another wholly satisfactory letter from this crowd. It was sent. The letter was sent to Dalridian on the 19th of March. They responded in May, a couple of months later, saying that they were apologising. Now, whatever it was they were doing in between times, tramping around farmers' fields or whatever they were doing in between times, they obviously weren't doing any providing or referencing any information to be passed on to us in terms of their carbon neutrality claims. The letter itself doesn't reference anything to do with carbon neutrality. There are repeated references to carbon offsetting, which is something that's completely different. So really, by the sounds of it, they haven't any method or means of remaining carbon neutral. The carbon offsetting it can't be used as like a free pass for an action to prevent irreversible and catastrophic climate disruption. And any offset scheme promises to cancel out emissions in one place, but effectively, whilst they're reducing their actions in one place, they're passing it on to somewhere else. And the climate crisis has been recognised as our gravest threat, so this is something that we have to take very seriously. The original proposal was that following receipt of this letter, we would then instigate our own carbon audit. I would imagine that's going to be quite an expensive process because obviously we would have to outsource and someone with expertise in that area. So rather than proceeding, I suppose, directly to that outcome, I would maybe request or propose that instead council write back to Dalridian seeking a more specific request to our response or a response to our request, because that relates to carbon neutrality. They've made reference, as I said, on numerous occasions to buying or offsetting carbon by spending money and buying carbon offset tokens, but they haven't done anything to cover these claims that they've plastered all over local media. Again, whether there's a case for the Advertising Standards Agency, maybe that's something that we should be looking to do as well, because the letter really is meaningless on the claims that they're making. So I would be proposing just that we get back to them for specific information, specific details, because at the minute they haven't provided anything of note to date.
Okay, that's a proposal. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, this whole situation, Dalridian, was never really of an interest to me until probably this mandate in the council. But my understanding is carbon neutrality is part of Dalridian's planning permission application, and any commitments made in that application they will have to adhere to if they receive planning permission. As such, the Department of Infrastructure are dealing with the application, and therefore we need to let the relevant statutory authorities assess this on its own merits. That will be heard at the public inquiry, which was requested and has been granted. In their letter, Dalridian have committed to delivering the project as a carbon neutral project for its lifespan and has engaged an independent third party to deliver this. Obviously, they are taking it seriously. Carbon neutrality is not the same as zero carbon. Dalridian are suggesting offsetting their emissions. The Northern Ireland operations will be carbon neutral and in line with UK government targets. Surely this is a welcome commitment. It will be a positive if companies in FODC were to make these long-term commitments. Dalridian will be audited on an annual basis and results published. I am aware that Dalridian have already received their independent certification that they will be carbon neutral. Therefore, to provide a carbon audit breakdown for the whole lifespan is clearly not possible. It would be like asking you to provide your tax returns up front for the next 25 years. So with that, I propose that we note this piece of correspondence from Dalridian. Thank you.
Okay, that's the second proposal. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. It's just I'm happy to second the proposal by Councillor McAleer, and I just want to point out that Dalradian there have claimed and made a commitment that they will have a legally enforceable commitment entered into under Section 76 of the Planning Act 2015. However, technically, these have been notoriously difficult to implement in a Northern Ireland context, and that these commitments therefore attach to the applicant usually as opposed to the application. So, for example, if the applicant was to sell their interest, which is not unusual for exploratory companies, and I think we had this exact situation with the fracking, it was a concern because there was a commitment made that they wouldn't use chemicals. But we realized that the commitment wasn't worth the paper it was written on, because if they sell their rights to these fields, then and to these exploratory sites, then the commitment dies with them, and it is not enforceable under law. So it's actually a worthless commitment anyway, unless it can be enforced in law. And I entirely concur with Councillor McAleer's wider points about the nature of what they've committed to. So I'm happy to second his proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Curry. No, sorry, Councillor Elliott.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, I'd like to second Councillor Warrington's proposal there. I'd agree with most of what he said there, but I see the last paragraph there. The letter says Dalradian has stated that they're backdating their certification of carbon neutrality to the 1st of January 2019. So I suppose that again, when things up and going, would be a welcome step. So as I say, I'm happy to second Councillor Warrington's proposal. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Curry.
Yeah, it's more of a comment, I suppose. I'd be supportive of Corey McAleer, and Corey O'Coffey makes some good points there too. I do think that carbon neutrality, however that's delivered, is welcome. But we're only looking at it in terms of the north here, and of course the climate crisis and the climate emergency that we have declared as a council isn't restricted. It doesn't see the 6 counties out of the global plan. So I would be actually very interested to know about their carbon neutrality in general. I mean, they're going to have to process this if indeed it goes ahead. So just that comment really, but supportive of Corey McAleer. Gormagat.
Okay. Keep your hand still up there, but I'll take it as ever. Councillor McAleer, your hand's still up. But I'm going to come. No, I'm going to come back to you at the end. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just to say that I'm happy to support both proposals there, because I keep going on about the money, and I think Councillor McAleer's request is a genuine one, and I can't see any harm in it. And when there's no big financial risk to these sort of things and information sought, I welcome it and see if there's any way forward on that. And also content that we looked at. So I don't see any damage in the proposal of Councillor McAleer's for us as a council to get more information back that you know he may want, and or clarity if he wasn't content with his response, and equally happy that we know the letter that was received as well.
Okay, Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Keirley. I just Siobhan came in before me there, just that I was kind of supporting Councillor McAleer there as well, and as a kind of totally opposed to fracking or any of that kind of interest. Well, I just want to say my internet's going desperate here tonight. I'm in and out of the meeting all night, so there's parts of the meeting I'm not getting. Just in case any votes come up later on, it's very hard for me here tonight. Whatever's wrong with it, so I just want to get that out there before we get any votes. Hopefully, okay.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. Just in relation to the two motions, Can Alison just clarify, can both of them be passed? Can you note something and then have an action on it? Genuinely just confused on that. I have no issue with either motion, or either proposal. I mean, but can we note and have an action?
It would be unusual, Chair. We would generally, if we were noting, that would conclude our deliberations on it. And if we were writing back, it would mean we're doing something more than noting. So they would, while you technically you could do it, it would be unusual to pursue those two courses of action, as they're a little bit contradictory.
Yeah, that's the thought. Thank
you. They are and they're not mutually exclusive. Councillor McAleer, you come in now and I'll have to have a think about this.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I appreciate you letting me in again. It's just to be very brief that offsetting and buying carbon credits don't reduce CO2 emissions. This company, it proposes to use 3 to 3.5 million litres of diesel annually. That's over 8,700 litres per day, producing over 8,500 tonnes of CO2 every year, or up to 23.5 tonnes of CO2 per day. And of course, greenhouse gases aren't the only concern here, when their processes also produce the likes of sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, and particulates, as well as heavy metals like cadmium, lead, mercury, zinc, chromium, etc. So I think it's a very disingenuous letter, and I think for some of the previous speakers to be playing it off that these guys are doing a good turn, and they're doing. It's like the idea that you can have sustainable extraction. The two don't go together. You have one or you have the other, and they can't ride two horses, this company. So I think it's very disingenuous for some councillors to be saying they're supportive of a carbon neutrality from a company that clearly can't provide that. And it's also very nice to see, for a change, that there's quite a bit of support from me tonight. I don't know what I'm doing right or doing wrong here, but I appreciate all the speakers and support. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Curry, your hand raised.
Yes, Chair, just come back in there. Thank you. I'm not sure where Corey McAleer's directing that, because he's never very clear on it. But just to be clear, I do think whilst should be doing everything we can to reduce carbon in the first place, anybody who is if they're offsetting it is better than not offsetting it. But it would be my choice that it was reduced in the first place. Just to make that clear, Cormagat.
Oh, that's good. Seamus, your hand's still up, but I'm assuming that's an error, unless you want to come in. No, grand. Right, I am going to take them in the order that they came, and to be honest, there's no value in noting something if it's not being dealt with. So if Councillor McAleer's proposal is passed, I'm gonna judge Councillor Warrington's as falling. Have we got any dissent for Councillor McAleer's proposal?
Yes.
There we go. So then we'll put it to you.
Put a vote again, please, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, Chair. So on the proposal then of Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor O'Coffey, that we write back to Dalradian seeking more specific response to original letter, specific information and specific details. Councillor Armstrong?
Against.
Councillor Baird?
Against.
Councillor Blake?
For.
Councillor Buchanan?
Against.
Councillor Campbell?
For.
Councillor Clark? Councillor Coyle?
For.
Councillor Curry?
Bravo, for.
Councillor Deehan?
For.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly? Councillor Sean Donnelly?
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly? Councillor Elliott?
Against.
Councillor Erskine?
Against.
Councillor Feely?
For.
Gannon?
For.
For, Chair.
Councillor Green?
For.
Councillor Irvine?
Against, Chair.
Councillor Keenan.
For.
Councillor Catherine Kelly. Councillor Podrigan Kelly.
For.
Councillor Maguire.
Reconvened and Malta. For.
Councillor McAleer.
For.
Councillor McCaffrey.
For.
Councillor McCann.
For.
Councillor McCloughery.
Against.
Councillor McElduff.
Aye.
Councillor McPhillips.
For.
Councillor O'Coffey.
For.
Councillor O'Reilly.
For.
Councillor Rainey.
Against.
Councillor Robinson. Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Swift.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. We're just going. Okay, Chair, so that I make that 21 for, 13 against. So that's carried.
Okay. Well, I don't see how the second proposal can then stand. So that, I think, is that item dealt with. Therefore, we move on to item 5.2.
Okay, Chair, this is correspondence from Camphill Community Clanabogan, just advising of their recognition under the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I know this letter has been there for quite a while now, but I just want to formally, if this council can formally recognise Camphill community and send them a letter of congratulations on their great achievement.
Can I just
formally propose that can be done?
Well, just before you propose it, I sort of, because of the COVID thing, I met a small delegation of them in Irvinstown, and we did a bit of social media around that. That does not preclude me from sending another letter, but just it's important, I think, that you bear that in mind. So, I mean, just if you bear that in mind before you make your proposal, but I have absolutely no objection to sending a follow-up letter just of congratulations.
No, I'm happy enough that you've done that, Chairman. Very good. But I would formally propose that we still write a letter of congratulations on behalf of Fermanagh Omagh District Council to them on this great achievement.
100%. Okay. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair. Well, I would second that by Councillor Thompson. This Camphill Community Association Clanabogan were granted this farm by a lady who I can remember very well. And the amount of people that they have helped, they run a farm there. I don't know whether it's profitable or not. They run a farm, and the patients work with the animals, and it's really wonderful to see it in action. And the number of people that they have brought in there and helped is unbelievable. So I would agree with Councillor Thompson that I believe as a council we should be congratulating them on the work that they have done for the community and the number of people that they have employed as well.
Yeah. I am just going to add, well, it's not even the spanner in the works, it's just an extra bit of information. There were 5 groups across the district that did get this award. It may be a better idea that's taken as a block. From memory, there was the Fermanagh Talking newspaper, Enniskillen Royal Boat Club, St Eugene's Brass Band, Camphill Clanabogan, and
Ashling Centre.
The Ashling Centre, yeah. So I mean, I think if we're going to do this, it might be an idea for the original proposal to widen it slightly.
Okay, Chairman, I hear what you're saying there. Obviously, this letter's to do with Camphill, but I'm happy to amend my proposal to include all who have been recognised in this way.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Chairman.
Happy enough, seconder?
Yes, I'm happy enough to second that. And but yes, no problem. But to say Camphill, I see it every day out of my window,
Brilliant
the
work.
benefit we see in the area and to people who have not good health is unbelievable.
Councillor Rainey.
Yeah, I want to support it as well, Chairman. It's a very vibrant and hard-working group, and it does provide a wide range of activities for all of those who are perhaps a little less fortunate. And then I want to be on the record to support all of the other groups that you have already mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all indications. Anyone who objects to these letters being sent, please indicate now. Nope. Okay, I'm going to take that as passed. We'll move on now to item 5.3.
Yes, Chair, and there's 4 items of correspondence in relation to this item, and members will recall we had issued letters to really to the Taoiseach and all party leaders in the Dáil, together with all independent members, and this related to residents of Northern Ireland who were working and paying taxes in the south but unable to claim the COVID-19 emergency payments. So we've responses from Richard Boyd Ballot TD on behalf of People Before Profit, Paul Murphy TD, or his office on behalf of RISE, from an official working in the Office of Social Protection, Employment Affairs and Social Protection, and finally from the office of Mary Lou MacDonald TD.
Okay, I have an indication from Councillor Swift.
Cormagat, I didn't think I would be in that quickly. Anyway, yes, I note and accept all the correspondence and appreciate all those respective individuals doing their very best on this very difficult issue, which obviously is a constitutional problem anyway. And it's to that end that I would ask Alison, the Chief Executive, for our next Brexit meeting, if we can have it placed on the agenda, appropriate personnel to deal with these pragmatic human rights and civil liberties issues. You know, the pandemic payment has been so contested by all our frontier workers, and it really is just totally unfair. So if we can have somebody, the appropriate personnel, I leave that with you, Alison. I have a few suggestions that may be of help, but no doubt you'll use your own skills anyway to do that. And I hope people will agree with the same, because we do need to have personnel speaking at our Brexit meetings dealing with these very real issues going forward. Cormagat.
Okay, Councillor Feely.
I'll second that proposal from Bernard. Yeah, it's a major issue down here, here in the border. These people that have worked in the south not getting any of this money and paying the taxes. So happy to propose that, and I'm glad most of the party leaders have written back. But some of them not written back yet. I'm not sure. I can't remember these anymore. Has any of them not corresponded back yet? And if not, I hope that the soon will. Just happy to propose the second thanks to this proposal.
I'm really sorry. You kind of broke up near at the very end of that on my end. But I heard that you were prepared to propose that you were proposed or seconding it. Was there a further?
I think Chair, just Councillor Feely questioned were they the only responses received, and just to confirm, yes. Yeah. So we're still awaiting quite a number of responses from various parties and individuals.
Okay.
Well, hopefully some of them will soon respond. Very important issues for other leaders not responding back to that. Just hope to respond shortly. And my internet is desperate bad now. That's why I'm probably breaking up.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Councillor McCaffrey.
Yeah, Gurmal, good to Carly, and I'm happy to support that as well, and agree with what Councillor Feely's after saying. It is a massive problem, especially in our Fermanagh and Omagh district, and of course we straddle the border across many different counties. I would also like to make a proposal. I propose that we would send a letter to IFIC and Taoiseach and to the Taoiseach's office, because there was a recent revelation where the EU did confirm to my party Sinn Féin that the COVID payment can be paid to cross-border workers. That decision was taken solely by the Fine Gael government. It was solely taken by Fine Gael, and they were hiding under EU regulations, and in no way or form should taxpayers, just because we're happen to live, should be financially disadvantaged. Some of these people are business owners who are employing people and are taking risks and who are adding to the economy in the 26 counties as well. And I think it sets a very dangerous precedent that if any 26 county government was able to deny workers' payments just because on that basis, you get down a very ropey territory of pensions and everything else as well. So I would propose that we send a letter to Ithic and Taoiseach and Micheál Martin to acknowledge that this recent revelation from the EU, that it's a political decision and that and that cross-border workers should be paid what they're entitled to.
Okay, Anthony, your hand's still up, but I'm going to go to Barry first. Barry McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Can I second Councillor McCaffrey's proposal if it requires a seconder? And just suggest that maybe Leo Varadkar and Alan Kelly are further pursued for a response. And maybe from our own council point of view, I mean, as an OMA councillor, I'm aware of this to some degree, but as Councillor Feely said, it's a particular issue in the immediate border area. You know, often I hear Councillor O'Reilly talking about Clonus and Newton Butler and Ayrn East and all these partnerships that exist. So I think it would be good if our own data scientist was asked to do some work on this. Chair, maybe that's addressed to the Chief Executive. But I think we have a very good data scientist who has a great interest in employment matters, you know. And I think that it would be a useful exercise for us to try to quantify how many of our workers in Fermanagh Omagh Council area are working south of the border and who this issue directly relates to. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Chair, certainly we can progress that.
Okay, and Councillor Curry's the last name I have up.
Gormagada, Carly, and I was just coming in to second Collier McCaffrey's, but if Collier McElduff's also needs a seconder, I'm happy to do that. I think it is disgraceful that they've hidden behind and actually lied about EU legislation, and that is now not the case. So I think it's very important that letter is sent and we make that representation on behalf of the people in our area who are working in the 26 counties. Thank you.
Right, I have then 3 proposals. The first one is by Councillor Swift, second by Councillor Feely, to do work on the Brexit committee, appropriate personnel. I'll take them in turn, sure. So do we have any objections to that? Do we have any objections to that? Please indicate now. No. Okay, so we'll take that one as passed. The second one was by Councillor McCaffrey, seconded by Councillor McElduff. Any objections? Nope. The third one was by Councillor McElduff, seconded by Councillor Curry. Any objections? No. Okay. I think that's that issue dealt with. 5.4.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, these are 3 items from the Department for the Economy, but they are all slightly different in terms of emphasis, so I will just maybe summarise individually. The first, Chair, relates to the Council's request that a review be undertaken for the criteria for the small business rate relief scheme. This specifically related to those those retailers with more than one premise who fell outside of the eligibility, and that's the response from the Minister on that specific issue.
Okay. Councillor Coffey. Councillor Michael, if your hand's still up, if it's still up at the end of this, I'll bring you in this, sure.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just on the second one, the documents, which is the one on the economic impact of COVID-19. I do note that the correspondence talks about the need for an economic policy, but there's absolutely nothing in there in regard to a manufacturing policy, which is obviously a major concern to workers, in particular our own area where we have a number of manufacturing jobs and they provide decent, pay and remuneration, and their jobs are important to keep. And I also note the success of local manufacturers in reprioritizing activity in the COVID challenge. And I think that shows just what could happen if we had more state involvement, in particular in growing our economy. But I really want to get onto the table on page 6. There's a lot of statistics there, and they are quite shocking statistics. It claims that in 2018-19, InvestNI created 159 jobs in total out of 169 offers, which means that they're actually creating less jobs than they're making offers, which means it's not even supporting self-employed, because obviously if you're a self-employed business, you would create at least one job. Similarly, the figure in 2019 to 20 is better, but it's still only 1.5 jobs per offer. My main issue, though, however, is when you look at, if you manage to do the maths and calculate, if they've given us actual salaries, they've given us a number of jobs, obvious question is, what is the salaries? So salaries in 2018-19 of jobs supported by Invest NI, £5,773 on average. That's what a job's worth that they're supporting in our council area. In the year 2019 to 20, it's way up, massively, inexplicable, to 20,000, but still £20,000 for a salary, and that's going to include NIC, is still pretty poverty wages for people in our area. And there are even worse statistics in there, buried in there. If you look at the locally created jobs from local companies, 137 jobs created, total salaries 368,000. That turns out to £2,686 per job created. That's the salary. And then, weirdly enough, the local figure goes through the roof to 25,000 in the second year, but the external contracts from 25,000 back down to 1,153. So, frankly, these statistics look absolutely shocking to me, and I can't understand just where they're coming from on them. There's a range of other control features I'm looking at. For example, investment per job created is only 31,000, but it's 80 to 90,000 elsewhere, and it's just, these figures are shocking. They show, I think, Invest NI is not delivering, and if they are delivering, they're delivering poor results for people. So I just want to propose we write back to Invest NI and query those statistics, because there's absolutely no way they seem to make any sense to me. And maybe when we get to the bottom of them, I think there is a tale to be told, but it's not the tale that is perceived from the basis of the statistics provided. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McAleer.
I'm just happy to second Councillor O'Coffey's proposal there.
Okay. Well, I'm seeing no more indications at the minute, so I'll put that to the floor. Anyone?
Chair, sorry, before you do, maybe just to clarify with Councillor O'Coffey, does he wish us to write to Invest Northern Ireland or back to the Minister? It's actually, while the source is Invest, the correspondence is from the Department for the Economy.
I take your point, Alison. I think probably should be Department of the Economy, keep it the Minister. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Anyone object to that? Please indicate now verbally. Nope. Okay. That's that. There are two more letters which I think need some sort of proposal to note.
Yeah. But just then, for completeness, Chair, the third letter is the ineligibility of farm businesses. And that is, again, Council's concerns about farm businesses being unable to apply for the small business support grant. So that's the Minister's response on that matter.
Okay. Does anybody wish to propose to note that? Maybe Councillor Thompson?
Propose noted, Chair.
Both of them, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, grand. Anyone wants to second? You can shout out if you want. Councillor Gannon?
Happy to second both.
Grand. Any objections? No. Pass. Or noted. Item 5.5.
Yes, Chair, this was clarification from Martin Michelle, and this followed on from previous discussions. They had referenced general provisions around childcare, and we wanted to clarify that they were aware of the circumstances applying in Northern Ireland. So that's really their response to the Council's representations on that query.
Okay. I am seeing no indications. Anyone wish to note? Any hands going up?
Propose to note.
I didn't catch who that was. Councillor Erskine?
Coffee, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Coffey proposed to note. Councillor Erskine? Have a second?
Yes, that's the second, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Right. Any objections? Please say now. Okay, noted. 5.6.
Chair, this is correspondence from the Western Health and Social Care Trust regarding Council's queries about the mental health services currently available in the district area, and this was obviously in the context of the COVID emergency.
Okay, 5 indications. First up, Councillor Swift.
Gurmagad Kirlock, yeah. And I'm reasonably happy with the response. However, the very fact that some of the NICAN guidelines were used in what were to be prioritised in terms of other treatments during COVID did, without a doubt, place extreme and adverse emotional and mental health issues for many of our constituents. And there should never be a delay for anyone seeking this help. Now, while I know that there are assurances provided within the letter, I do want to express that given the fact that we know there have been cases of suicide in our DEA, I want to ensure that follow-up treatment is fundamental thereafter for families who are dealing with such a traumatic experience. I have 2 outstanding issues as well regarding the NICAN guidelines. They were also used for the breast screening facilities during the COVID pandemic, and it was an issue that I had raised at the recent WHSCT meeting. Now, we were assured that the breast screening services are ready to go. However, I'm still awaiting to know when exactly. So that's one question I want expedited tonight as a matter of urgency. And then secondly, outstanding is the question that was raised on the day as well with WHSCT about the collapsed contracts for the elderly and vulnerable people, particularly in the Iron West DEA. I am disappointed that thus far the assurances that we were given on the day of that meeting that we would be provided with our answers still have not prevailed. So to that end, I would like answers to both those questions and that they adhere to the promises given on the day that the communication personnel would provide us with all the outstanding questions that we didn't have time to deal with on the day, and particularly the serious ones that's detailed in this letter of mental health. So those are the 2 proposals to be expedited tonight, please, Gurmagad.
Councillor, just before you go, I know that other councillors, including myself, ask questions, and I'm still awaiting a response. Would you be happy enough to open that out a wee bit, just to
Oh
say,
yes, well, yeah. Everybody's certainly.
Yeah,
thank you.
that's all right. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I need to support Councillor Swift's proposal. I'm happy to do so if necessary. I would just like to add it potentially to respond. There's a line in here saying that the mental health services have remained operational throughout the time of emergency. Now, I think technically perhaps you could call that a truth, but I've been approached by many people, and I'm sure I'm not the only councillor, have went to doctors, have been in emergency situations and been told that they're straight and they can't get any treatment for mental health support and so on. So it's obvious that that's not really working. So if I take it, if we could put that into Councillor Swift's proposal that we write back. But also I want to raise something at the bottom of the letter there, which is that the Pathfinder, they reference the Pathfinder project as an opportunity and that we look forward to continuing association with Fermanagh and Omagh District Council. However, when I asked the Chief Executive what exactly have they done with Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, it wasn't a director attended the meeting on March 19th, and then a director did attend the meeting in April, and that's it. There's been nothing since, and there's been a whole lot of talk planned since. So I don't know whether we can take this back to the Health and Social Care group, because we've seen to be having so much issues in that body. But I think at some point we need to say to the Western Health and Social Care Trust that we need to see a different approach taken to Pathfinder. It has to involve the council. I think the council has to be perceived to have been engaged as councillors. We meet the WHSCT on an ongoing basis, not often enough perhaps, but we also have this process going on. And frankly, Councillor McCluskey and myself had to actually basically do it almost a sit-in to get into one of these meetings, because they are obviously of massive concern to the local community. And I think we definitely need to do something to involve the council in this whole process, which is going to potentially reshape our health service. So is it possible maybe to bring that to the, I'm really seeking advice maybe from Alison on the best way to advance that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Chair, Chair, I would suggest if Councillor O'Coffey was content that we would write to seek clarification from the Trust, a formal update in relation to the implementation of Pathfinder, and specifically then to request their direct engagement through the Health and Social Care Group with members. So I think we could get the formal request in and then progress as a matter of urgency to arrange a specific meeting on the subject, if Councillor was content with that.
Yeah, just administratively, I'm going to take that as a separate sort of, just from the other two. I can't imagine it being an issue, but just to keep things sort of clean. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Chair, I have huge concern regarding mental health provision, both now and going forward. I think we have seen just the tip of the iceberg in terms of people who have emotional and mental health difficulties and addiction issues in the wake of COVID. And these difficulties are only going to increase given the stress that people are under, given loss of employment, financial difficulties. And I know that this letter from Dr. Kilgallen references the input from the community and voluntary sector. And I know that there is a lot of concern out there in this sector regarding the preparedness or the capacity of the voluntary and community services to take up the slack. So one of the services that was not operational during the worst of this pandemic was the addiction services. I do have some information that by early next month, we should see some move to restoration of these important services. But what I would propose, Chair, is that we clarify with the Trust exactly what work has been progressed with the Pathfinder Mental Health Implementation Group, because this is important work. We need to be kept fully informed as to what their proposals are, and in particular, the issue regarding adequate resources to meet this tsunami of demand, which I believe we are currently facing. So I make that proposal, Chair. Thank you.
I wonder if that proposal can be wrapped in another one.
Chair, I'm not sure if Councillor Deehan was content. We could perhaps specify the Pathfinder Mental Health group within the earlier letter, if she was content, and then would maybe second Councillor O'Coffey's proposal.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to do that, Chair. I think that's reasonable.
That's grand.
Thank you.
Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, I agree with all the previous councillors. But the only thing I've concerns about, the Western Trust says they provide a wide range of mental health services to all people, and they've listed the links. Sorry.
Don't worry.
But even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that what they were doing wasn't working, and as the COVID-19 pandemic has happened, even the Minister of Health has said that mental health is going to be one of the biggest fallouts from it. But out of the 90 million budget for the health, only 1.5 million has been allocated to the mental health action plan. So I would suggest to add, well, if Councillor Deehan was happy enough, to call for. Yep.
You have company there by the sounds of things.
Have company. To all doctor surgeries to have
young
counsellor available. As we know, counselling is the best way to proceed with mental health. That's about it.
Okay. Councillor Deehan, you happy enough?
Yes, absolutely, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, we'll keep this moving. Councillor Campbell.
Yes. Sorry, you hear me okay now?
Gotcha now, yeah.
Well, I want to support the previous speakers. I'm supportive of all that's been said, really. And I have to say, when I read the letter, I know there's reference made to a website. I would like more detail, really, on what's worked well and what could have worked better in the first phase, because I think it's crucial that, as has already been pointed out, we had a crisis in terms of a tsunami, really, in terms of need for mental health support. People waiting unacceptable amounts of times for access to therapies such as CBT to see a counsellor. So, I mean, I would really like to see, and I would like it included in one of the proposals, really, a bit of detail, really, on what worked well and what could have worked better, what lessons have been learned, because I certainly feel that if we face a second phase, which is quite likely, so I'd like to see what's been learned and really what's been done, because what was been done prior to the COVID pandemic wasn't adequate, and clearly you can only have huge concerns about provision at this time, and I fully support the trust and what they're trying to do, but I'd just like a bit more detail on what's going well and what's not going well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I'm really sure where my glasses. Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I was in attendance at that recent group meeting with the Western Health Trust, and waiting lists for mental health consultations and service provision continue to be unacceptable. I think it was Dr. Lisa Brady who represented the Trust mental health services at the meeting. But one of the questions I asked at the meeting was, is there an inequality or a differential between the number of community and voluntary sector organisations that are active in this field of offering support and delivering services in the mental health sector? Because Dr. Brady emphasised that the Western Health Trust can't do it alone, and she mentioned the importance of the voluntary and community sector in terms of providing services. She actually did acknowledge the point that I made at the meeting, that between the southern sector of the Trust, which is us, which is Oma and Fermanagh, there is a lesser provision of voluntary and community service network in our area when compared to the northern sector. So I would propose that we write to the Trust asking them for more detail around that.
Councillor McElduff, can I just, it might be inappropriate, but one of the things I did when I first got into the chair was I met a wonderful woman from Irvinstown who has created a kind of catalogue of all of the mental health services. It's primarily in Fermanagh, to be honest. Would you be sort of, it's sort of semi on the same vein, would you be prepared to sort of...
daughter.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is. Would you be prepared to sort of wrap that into your proposal and see if that could be maybe rolled out? I mean, her experience was, and I mean, it's on the council Facebook, so I'm not breaking any confidences, was that services were hard to find. So maybe that could be wrapped in some kind of way as to how that could be maybe disseminated.
Yeah.
Would you be happy enough to put that into your proposal? Yeah.
Adding value, no problem, Chair.
Okay, sorry for cutting across you.
My point is that the Western Health Trust are presiding over a situation where there's a lesser service in terms of mental health provision in the southern sector of the Trust when compared to the northern sector. They do everything, it would seem, through northern sector prism, through the eyes of Derry, essentially. And I think there's a quite significant differential in voluntary and community groups that are funded in our part of the Trust area, which help provide and deliver mental health services. So I propose that we write to the Trust to make that allegation and to seek clarity around that, and to seek detail on the extent of community and voluntary sector providers in the mental health field that there are specifically in the southern sector of the Trust, and what they're doing, ask them what they're doing to remedy this inequality. So I do propose that, Chair. And secondly, if I could also add in that we should ask the communications section of the Trust to provide us with an updated contact list for directors and assistant directors, because there has been some changes there recently. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Campbell, are you still looking in? Did you go out?
Sorry, Chairman.
That's all right. Yeah. Councillor Curry.
Clearly, yes, and I'd like to second that proposal by Collier McElduff there. And we did discuss that, and it was acknowledged in the meeting, so I'd like to see the clarity on that. And also support Collier Swift's comments there. We are waiting, too long. It's 10 days since we had that meeting, and we had assurances, certainly on some of the items that we raised during the meeting, that we would have urgent responses, and around the breast screening. A number of constituents raised that with me, and I raised a number of points about what the Trust was doing. Now, the Trust said that breast screening services were returning today, the 20th of July, but it still remains unclear whether they're returning to Fermanagh. They haven't confirmed that, and we are still waiting. So I support what Collier Swift has called for there. I just think we need to have actual efficient responses from the Trust when we are taking the time to relay constituents' concerns to them. Gormagat.
Okay. Councillor Swift.
Yeah, and just a helpful piece of information as well arising from that last meeting, and it was actually one of the clinical leads from the Health and Social Care Board, Dr. Kevin Dyer, psychology lead for Health and Social Care Trauma. He has provided a list of very useful contacts, similar to what Councillor McElduff is seeking there. And there's very useful health and wellbeing apps library, and it's detailing all about mind your head and everything to do with emotional health and well-being, the stress control and all of that. And I accidentally came across this, and I was disappointed that it's not better well known. And it's a bit like what other councillors have said, it's hard to find some of this information. For example, even the Lifeline number not being that well noted. And I just thought as well, it's something to consider down the line for us, that if we could link it in somewhere into our community plan, or one of our pillars is saying we're looking after the emotion and well-being of our constituents, so it might be a useful link. I'll send it to Alison later on, just for the purposes of helping to get that little bit of business dealt with. Okay?
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelly, Catherine Kelly.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I'm not sure who proposed writing to the Trust about mental health services. I think it was Councillor Deehan. But I would like to, whatever communication is being made, that we include addiction services to the mental health proposals, and that we suggest dual diagnosis services, because they prevent someone who is challenged with an addiction and mental health. It prevents them from being forced to address one or the other. So I would ask that addiction services be added to anything to do with mental health.
Okay. That'll be Councillor Deehan. Are you happy enough to wrap those together?
Yes, absolutely, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. I thought there was an indication there, but I think that's it. Now, as I have it, there is a proposal by Councillor Bernie Swift, seconded by Donal. The second proposal by Donal, seconded by Councillor Deehan, and a third proposal by Councillor McElduff and seconded by Councillor Curry. Is that?
Yes, Chair. Now, just to say that Councillor Keenan then made a number of suggestions specifically around counselling services, and then Councillor Campbell did specify maybe around the learning, around the mental health provision during this time and what went well and what could go better. It may be the Councillor O'Coffey's proposal was quite specific on Pathfinder, and Councillor Deehan specifically raised Pathfinder. So perhaps if Councillor Keenan was content, we could do the separate inclusion of counselling services and the additional details sought by Councillor Campbell as a separate proposal. Maybe if Councillor Campbell would second that.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, I'd be happy to second that, Chairman.
And
And then just the final comment by Councillor Kelly, Chair, in terms of addiction services generally within any of those mental health service provisions. We could reflect those in if the various proposers were content. Yes.
4? Okay, so if we go, so if we go for the first proposal by Councillor Swift? No.
Yes, Chair, it was Councillor Swift, second by Councillor Coffey. This was really the various outstanding queries, including the re-establishment of the breastfeeding services and a number of other commitments made at the recent healthcare meeting.
Okay, do we have any objections? Nope, okay, we'll call that one passed. Second one by Councillor Donal O'Coffey and seconded by Councillor Deehan. Any objections? Nope, okay. Councillor McAuliffe and Councillor Curry's proposal. Passed. And finally, Councillor Keenan and Councillor Campbell's proposal. All passed. Okay, I consider that dealt with. We might now move on to 5.7.
Yeah, Chair, just to say, I think really matters have probably moved on a little bit at the time of this letter from NI Water. Members will recall we'd had that recent very long dry spell of weather, and this was really arrangements around water preservation and potential drought. So still relevant, of course, but I think the immediate emergency is probably past, so I'd suggest, Chair, maybe to note.
Okay. Councillor Kelly, I'm going to assume, I could be wrong, but your hand's up just from the previous one, but the new hands up are Councillor McAleer. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's interesting just the feedback on the need to conserve water that we generally take for granted, I suppose, until it comes to those summer months, or we do get maybe a week or two of summer weather, warmer weather, and just being mindful during spring this year, the rainfall had been 60% lower than the previous year, and I suppose the huge impact that this has had. It's a timely on local reservoirs, a timely reminder of the importance in taking steps to advance and ensure the sustainable supply of clean water as we progress through the council and through the local area. I would propose that we would get back to NI Water to get more localised information specifically for the Fermanagh and Omagh district on, firstly, the impact on smaller local reservoirs that a lower amount of rainfall is having, and secondly, I suppose, given that gold mining is a particularly water intensive operation, could NI Water give us some feedback on the borewell permissions granted to Dalradian over the past 6 years and what the impact on reserves and on the water system would be going forward should all of these be operational at capacity simultaneously? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. A few more indications. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, as Alison already alluded to, things have moved on slightly from that, and I wish to propose the noting of the letter from Sarah Benning, Chief Executive, Northern Ireland Water, formally proposed, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously I'd like to second the proposal there from Councillor McAleer. He's entirely right. And some of these industrial processes are hugely water intensive. What I gather of the gold mining, it is almost as bad as the fracking. So it certainly would be something would be a problem. I just want to say I've written quite a few letters on the waste of water due to lack of investment to Northern Ireland Water, and I'm wondering if other councils have had the similar experience, but basically they're treating them as FOIs rather than inquiries from a councillor. So I just don't know why. It's a similar situation actually to the Health Trust. I think Councillor Curry there said she was waiting for responses, and I'm the exact same. I'm waiting for a load of responses on the Health Trust stuff, and I don't know with the COVID thing as all these authorities stopped answering letters really. So.
Just before you go, is your sort of questions more centered around the time or the process?
I'm not getting any. The process is probably the truth. It shouldn't be considered as an FOI, as far as I gather. It's a letter from a councillor. There's issues around lack of investment around water infrastructure. I think it's £10 billion hasn't been spent over the last decade or so. and there's lots of water wasted, and that's partially why we've got the situation where Fermanagh and Omagh we're running out of water. So I'm just trying to find out where the lack of investment is, but they're sending me to nowhere. So thanks, Chair.
Emmett, you happy enough to wrap that all in?
Absolutely not a problem. Yep.
Right. Okay. Two more indications. One by Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I'll second Councillor Thompson's.
Yep. We're kind of coming into the same issue again. I mean, if we send a letter, then is it really appropriate to note something? But we'll see how. We'll take them in turn, and if we actually choose to follow it up with something, then it's probably not really. Noting it really wouldn't have any standing. So we'll take Emmett and Donald's proposal. Do we have any objections to that? If not, we'll call that passed. And then I don't really see any benefit for us in noting something that we're going to progress further. So we'll move now to 5.8.
Chair, this is details of a motion recently adopted by Carlow County Council, and the details are included in the correspondence followed on from the recent Black Lives Matter protests. Generally, Chair, we would note the motions adopted by other councils.
Yes, I'm sort of quite anxious to try and avoid having the same debate twice, and there are similar veins to a motion coming up. So if you could bear that in mind in your comments, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and what you've just said, I was trying to get an amendment passed, but I was advised that it would be more appropriate to raise it in relation to this letter. I think it's a commendable letter from Carlow County Council, and I would propose that, like them, Fermanagh and Omagh District Council would contact the PSNI and the Justice Minister requesting that the fines passed out to the Black Lives Matter protesters in Derry and Belfast on the 6th of June actually be rescinded, that the charges be dropped. And I think it's very important that it's worth noting that during the course of this entire pandemic, the only group that seems to have been targeted or victimized in receipt of fines in this way is the actual Black Lives Matter protests that took place at the start of June. And I think we've seen a number of other instances where the same policing and the same punishment hasn't been the case. So I would be calling on the council to contact Justice Minister and the PSNI requesting that those charges and those fines are actually dropped by the relevant bodies. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, quite a few indications now. 10 minutes left. Councillor McCaffrey.
Yeah, Gormagat, Caherly, and likewise, I think it's a commendable letter from Carlow County Council, and it's great to see them taking interest in All Ireland matters. I think it's a sign of the things to come in the near future. But in terms just of Councillor McAleer's proposal there, can we just check the legal soundness on what he's proposing? But I would be inclined to agree that the fine should not have been, the fine should be rescinded, should not have been given out for a moment.
I think that's right at you, Alison, in terms of legal soundness.
Chair, in terms of the legal soundness in undertaking the course of action, if that's the question, the council could
think
pursue
so.
that. Obviously, it would be a matter for the relevant authorities, namely the police and the Department of Justice, if such correspondence would actually merit the rescinding of any fines or prosecutions. The council could proceed with the course of action.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair, I'm happy to second Emmett's proposal there, if that's the case.
Okay. Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, a very good letter from Carlow County Council and a good proposal from Emmett there. Number one, I think that the legislation passed, it was sneaked in under the guise of COVID-19. I think it is a breach of the human right to protest. And then number two, you have the problem with the selective policing, where the black, Asian and minority ethnic community was targeted and others weren't. But I suppose these things happen in this area. But yeah, I fully support that proposal. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor McClockery.
Thank you, Chair. That suffered badly under the COVID-19 with abuse. People cried in the area whenever they were supposed to be in lockdown. My community would wish that everybody had been dealt with the same, and all breaches had been dealt with robustly. So that would be my proposal, that all breaches should have been dealt with robustly from whatever quarter. No one had the right to put the rest of the community in danger by their actions, and I propose that all quarters should have been dealt with robustly by the relevant authorities.
Okay, I am going to view those as mutually exclusive. No, hold on. I'm going to view those as mutually exclusive because they're roughly in the same vein, but they're effectively opposite actions. One is to, yeah, I think that's how I'm going to interpret them. Eamon, your hand's still up, but I'm gonna, and so is John's. I'm gonna go to Adam Gannon now.
Thank you, Chair. You know, we also as a party do not believe that it's in the interest of the public to fine people who are protesting on such an important issue. And I know our own party leadership of the SDLP has already met with the Chief Constable to call for the fines to be dropped, because at all times the actions of the police and the PSNI must be fair and proportionate. And in this case, they weren't fair and proportionate, because there are numerous other examples of protests and events going ahead with no fines. One within a week was the Protect the Statues event in Belfast. No fines issued there whatsoever. And obviously, we want people to adhere to the COVID-19 restrictions and respect the rules that have been put out. But the PSNI should not pursue these fines. And because of this inequity of policing, with Black Lives Matter protesters, them being fined and others not, it would be appropriate to support the call on this proposal to review the PSNI's actions as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just obviously support the intent of what Councillor McAleer is saying there and has proposed, and it's entirely right. It should be noted that the only people fined were people protesting against racism who were doing it in socially distanced form, who were protesting against injustice and for human rights. And then, on the other hand, we had no action when it came to, for example, airplanes bringing people in day and daily at the height of the lockdown. Nothing happened at all. And that just shows you the nature of capitalism. It also is useful to note. I think some of the points Councillor Gannon has raised, that's entirely correct. And there's been double standards when it comes to politicians as well. But I have to ask, is it really the police or is it the politicians? The politicians in Stormont at some level passed a law to enforce this hours before it happened in Black Lives Matter. Hours before people got out in the streets to protest against racism, an amendment was passed to criminalise and to fine them. And in the Republic of Ireland, we have the situation where trade unionists fighting for basic redundancy pay in Debenhams were harassed off the streets even though they were on picket lines, socially distanced. This is the sort of two-tier policing. Policing against working class people, no policing when it comes to the elites and when it comes to the billionaires and the millionaires. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. I wish to second Councillor John McClaughry's proposal, and I don't think they're mutual.
You don't think they're mutual, or you don't think they're mutually exclusive?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think maybe that's your interpretation there, Chairman. To me, all breaches, and Councillor McClaughry's right, all breaches should have been followed robustly. And people talk about this and that and the other. Black lives matter, all lives matter. And I'm seconding Councillor McClaughry's proposal. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah. I suppose they needn't necessarily be mutually exclusive. Councillor McClure, are you content that they could be worded in one motion, or would you prefer they remain separate? And if they were put in as sorry, I know they're going to the same place, but if they could be worded, sorry, you hit your button there so everyone can hear you.
Yeah, no, Chair, I think that the gist of the two motions are, exactly, what they wanted. It should be encompassed into the one letter. It's farcical to have two separate motions going to the same place. They are running in tandem together. So I would ask if Councillor McClockery and Thompson would incorporate that into the first proposal.
Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I don't know how that could be incorporated into the one proposal. One of them says that everybody should be the full force of the law basically brought down on them or ask for fines to be waived. I cannot understand how they're not opposite. But as you being the chair, if you deem them not, that's it. But I can't understand how them two proposals aren't opposite.
I mean, Councillor Green, a view one is aspirational and one is concrete, and that's it would be difficult to work them together. I don't know if the chief executive would be content that she could incorporate them in the same.
Can I offer one, Chris?
Well, can you let Alison speak first, and then?
Well, the Chair, no, I was just going to make the point. I mean, one is clearly saying that the council should be writing to argue for charges to be dropped and fines to be rescinded, and the other is writing to the same bodies to ask or to suggest that all protesters should have been dealt with robustly and in the same way.
Yeah, fair enough. No, yeah, Councillor McClockery.
Perhaps if we worded, I mean, everybody should have been dealt with the same robustly. However, I don't believe that one group should have been singled out for treatment. So if you can word some sort of amendment around that, I mean, if everybody was in agreement that everybody should have been dealt with robustly, as I mean, they were endangering all of our lives. However, one group should not have been dealt differently from everybody else.
I think that possibly could be. Now, obviously, it's dependent on Emmett accepting that as a friendly amendment, but I think a form of words could encompass that. But it could be academic. Councillor McAleer?
Sorry, yeah, Chair, I'd rather keep the two as separate proposals. I don't think it benefits anyone to be muddy in the water, so I wouldn't be inclined to amend the proposal. Thank you.
Well, there you go. In that case, I have two hands up, both by Councillor Green and Councillor McClockery, who've already been in, and I'm going to assume just left up. Yep. Councillor Green? Yep, there we go. Right, well, in that case, then they stand separately. Do we have any objections to Councillor Emmett and Councillor McCaffrey? Sorry, Councillor McCaffrey's proposals?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well then we're going to have to.
Sure. So this is on the proposal of Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor McCaffrey, that the council writes to the Department of Justice and to the PSNI seeking that the fines issued in relation to the recent Black Lives Matter protests in Derry and Belfast be rescinded and all charges dropped. Councillor Armstrong?
Against.
Councillor Baird?
Against.
Councillor Blake?
For.
Councillor Buchanan?
Against.
Campbell?
For.
Councillor Clark? Councillor Coyle?
For.
Councillor Curry?
Aye, for.
Councillor Deehan?
For.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly? Councillor Sean Donnelly?
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly? Councillor Elliott?
Against.
Councillor Erskine?
Against.
Councillor Feely?
For.
Councillor Gerald is an apology. Councillor Gannon?
For.
Councillor Garrity?
4.
Councillor Green.
4.
Councillor Irvine. Councillor Keenan. Councillor Catherine Kelly.
4.
Councillor Podrigan Kelly.
4.
Maguire.
Evening Malta 4.
Councillor McAleer. Councillor McCaffrey.
Gina Takiak Lesh and Molly 4.
Councillor McCann.
4.
Councillor McCaffrey.
Against.
Councillor McElduff.
Haver, 4.
Councillor McPhillips.
4.
Councillor O'Coffey.
4.
Councillor O'Reilly.
4.
Councillor Rainey.
Against.
Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Again.
Councillor Swift.
4.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Yeah. If councillors would be so kind, there's no need to shout into the ear. It gets injected directly into my left ear. I am going to take then if they're not going to be incorporated together, I'm going to view them as mutually exclusive, and therefore Councillor
Chair, just to advise, there were 20 for and 13 against, so that would be carried.
Yeah, I think in the circumstances, they would be mutually exclusive, and Councillor McCloughery's proposal would therefore fall. We possibly have time for one more. No.
3 hours.
No. Okay, that's it. We have reached time.
Chair, could I propose that we do extend the meeting? I think we can get through the motions.
No, we must be able to complete the entire business.
Chair, can I ask where will this come back up? Is this going to come up on the Thursday night's meeting?
No.
Chair, it won't come on Thursday because that agenda has now been issued, and that will be essentially the consideration of the July business.
There you go. I can't, in good conscience, say that we're going to have any mission of getting through 4 motions and a number of four papers of confidential business. So therefore, I think we'll just call the meeting to a close at this stage. So then this will be then reconsidered at the
Chair,
no,
this
sorry.
This will be September now.
September. Well, there you go. That's just unfortunately what it
Can
to be.
Sorry, are there no available dates prior to the end of the month?
Chair, it is certainly not presently. I mean, I can review with colleagues tomorrow, but certainly no, we've people now off on leave, so no, we wouldn't. This was our last date, is Thursday's meeting. As you know, this is an extra meeting put in because we didn't have Brexit.
The 22nd, Wednesday the 22nd is showing as free on my calendar.
Yeah,
well, sorry, Chair, as you'll appreciate, Councillor McAleer, it's not just about accommodating you.
Yeah.
So,
I want to put it on record that the DUP are against extension and are against another meeting.
Well, I suppose it's
we were in recess in August, Chair, and we have, as you say, we have leave commitments now honoured for staff.
Well, that's fairly conclusive to me. I mean, if something changes, you'll
yes, we'll be convening on Thursday if there's a change to that.
And you'll circulate down to members if there is an available date. But at the minute, we will.
That's correct.
Okay. So thanks very much, and I shall see you all on Thursday. Meeting closed at.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Meeting closed at 22:06.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Alison.
Thank you.